Chapter 51. The photographers who had just arrived watched helplessly as this legendary lion with its cubs looked at them with disdain. They were not vigilant or afraid. Then they yawned in disdain. Their posture was so leisurely that they did not care about the peeping of all kinds of guns and cannons. Then they lay down and slept. They lay down, everyone could not help but say in their hearts, as expected of the descendants of the great Ten Alliance. Look at how they're used to seeing storms. Actually, there was a reason why Qiao Qishi dared to sleep. He knew that these humans in charge of recording would not interfere with the ecological cycle in the grassland. In other words, even if danger approached, humans would not make a sound to warn them. However, it did not matter. The humans' garrison itself played the role of cover. Ordinary grassland animals cherished their lives and would never let curiosity harm them. In terms of animal curiosity alone, grassland animals were probably the least curious group. Yes, there was basically a regional difference. There was no doubt that the curiosity of bipolar animals was at the top of the list. For example, polar bears and penguins. Next were marine animals. The only things that could attract the attention of grassland animals were probably food or members of the opposite sex in heat. Firstly, animals on the grassland would usually not treat lions as their first choice of food unless they were crazy. Secondly, as a half-grown lion that had not matured biologically and was not handsome, Qiao Qishi felt that no one on this grassland would think of him. However, sometimes many things cannot be explained. The 6 exciting and worrying lions slept under the protection of the photographer. They were not very hungry when they woke up. After all, they usually ate real meat and did not digest it so quickly. After Qiao Qishi woke up, he licked the fur of the cubs when he was bored. This was the only way to keep his body clean. There was no strong smell, and it could basically eliminate more than 80% of malicious tracking. The confused cubs turned their bodies and accepted the lion's lick in a very relaxed and lazy posture. This scene made the lion look more like a female lion full of maternal instincts. However, he was really not. The white lion woke up. People saw him stand up, squat on the ground, and yawn. Then, he rubbed against the lion and acted coquettishly. Lion cubs at this age were very delicate and soft. They would often fall down and pretend to bite the male lion's neck with their claws and pretend to bite. Usually, the male lion would roar back impatiently or get up to nap in another place. However, this lion from the Magic Red Alliance actually started playing with the cub. Each of them pretended to attack the other, but after a few rounds, the lion revealed its true form, the incarnation of a licking maniac. White Lion was licked until its neck tilted to the side. This allowed the camera to finally capture the face of the Norman family's young master. Wow! The moment they saw the front, everyone couldn't help but exclaim softly from the bottom of their hearts. It was a very well-proportioned face, with snow-white hair without a single blemish. He had a black nose and blue eyes. His bone structure was very sturdy and excellent. In short, he was completely different from a month ago. The lion raised him well. White Lion, who had turned around, glanced at the humans. He seemed to have seen something, but there was no curiosity or vigilance in his eyes. Perhaps it was because he was beside the male lion, but there was only a kind of indifference that did not have much interest. The cub quickly turned back and continued to play with the male lion. The other party's 2 thick claws looked top-notch, but unfortunately, no one could experience it. Qiao Qishi was not worthy when he was a human, but he was almost tired of playing with them now. Once the cubs became familiar with him, their attack power was not to be underestimated. The simple-minded eldest brother liked to play with his tail. Just watching him sweep his tail was enough to shock him for an entire day. Second brother looked like a rather steady lion cub, but he would occasionally lie on his head and be naughty, as if the scenery there was only good. Fortunately, third brother was a cool boy who said, "If you ignore me, I will ignore you. If you ignore me, I will ignore you too." Although he was a little disappointed, he also reduced Qiao Qishi's burden by a lot. Fourth brother might be the reincarnation of a lazy sheep. He was especially lazy and liked to sleep on Qiao Qishi's back. This child even wanted to climb on his back when they were walking. Fortunately, he was not lazy when eating. As for the feeling that little doe gave Xiao Qixi, it was very considerate. Although it was a little clingy and followed him wherever he went, for example, when Xiao Qixi went to the toilet, little doe liked to follow him, but fortunately, it did not cause trouble. Although that was what he said, all 5 of them were treasures. He didn't want to step on anyone and flatter anyone. He liked all of them. Not long after, Xiao Qixi led the cubs up and set off on their journey again. After sleeping enough, they were going to find their next meal. In the evening on the grassland, the setting sun was like blood, indicating that tomorrow might be a sunny day. From the sparse bushes in the distance, some blood-curdling screams could be heard. It might be a group of baboons, a very ferocious carnivore. When the conditions were right, they would drag the cubs to the trees and eat them when the lionesses were not paying attention. The lions could not do anything to them. Therefore, one should not enter the forest and cross the river. This advice from the ancestors was very applicable on the grassland. The 6 lions walked slowly because Xiao Qixi had already smelled the scent of prey. He guessed that the human following behind them might be scratching his heart and lungs thinking about how he hunted. Clearly, he had to broaden the other party's horizons today, no matter what. At dusk, almost all the carnivores were ready to move, and the herbivores were vigilant. Hunting was actually not easy. Even lions had a high failure rate. Before that, the most important thing was to be able to find the prey. Many predators spent hours on this task alone. Xiao Qixi only spent half an hour walking in a straight line towards the prey. This could save him a lot of stamina. When the team reached the range of the prey, he stopped and swept his tail. He looked at the cubs around him blankly and very consciously walked to a hidden place, staying there quietly and not moving. At most, he stuck his little head out and looked at the food in the distance. The white lion looked at Xiao Qixi more. As expected of the clingy him, he looked like he wanted to go hunting with him. After settling these little burdens, the lion could finally move out freely. In order not to affect the big cat's hunting, especially this lion, people did not dare to follow too close. It would be a huge sin if the lion failed to hunt because of them. They had to admit that this lion's ability to find prey was very good, and the preparation at the beginning of the hunt did not seem to be anything special. No, there was. When the lion slowly approached the prey did not notice and was still leisurely eating grass. Of course, this was because Xiao Qixi had more than 30 years of hiding his ability. He could at least be a principal when it came to how to get close to prey. It was a male wild deer with heavy antlers on its head. It looked like it had become a burden for the male wild deer. The heavy antlers were indeed a problem. In some protected areas, the staff would cut off the antlers for the male wild deer so that they could live easily and prevent them from being hunted. Although it sounded unbelievable, it was indeed the truth. The male wild deer on the African grassland did not receive such treatment. Once they were targeted by ferocious animals, the antlers on their heads were likely to become a burden for them to fight. For example, the one in front of him, the lion, which did not seem to be very lethal, had already targeted it. It found a suitable observation spot near it and patiently lay dormant. Positioning and judging methods were all things that he wanted to teach the little brats, so he had to watch them carefully. Meeting the beautiful eyes in the grass from afar, Xiao Qixi blinked. At this moment, a gust of wind blew past, causing Xiao Qixi's not thick mane to sway. Using this gust of wind as a cover, he attacked in an instant. The lion's explosive power was amazing both on land and in the water. The moment he jumped out, every muscle on his body bulged and operated at high speed. At this moment, the whole lion was like a weapon, attacking the male wild deer that was close at hand with all its strength. Xiao Qixi still used the way he was best at hunting. Under the high-definition camera lens, he fiercely pounced on the male wild deer. His 2 thick and powerful arms hugged the other's neck tightly. His sharp claws were embedded in the other's flesh, and blood immediately flowed out, dyeing the fighting scene red. This was a battle of life and death. It was simple, crude, bloody, and cruel, full of savagery and the urge to survive. The male wild deer wailed and jumped, trying to get rid of the lion, but soon its throat was cut in the struggle. The lion did not give it any chance to escape. However, there was still a period of struggle before it fell and died. This was a very long and painful ordeal. Although it was destined to die, it was not reconciled. The young photography team, without Marshall's calmness, still felt their hearts tremble in the face of such a scene. It was too wild, too fierce. The battle continued. In order to avoid being injured by the male wild deer's final counterattack, the lion did its best to ensure that it hung tightly on the male wild deer. During the process, every time his sharp claws scratched, there would be bloody marks. The ground under the male wild deer's feet had already been trampled into mud by itself. Every mark was proof of its struggle to survive. Unfortunately, under the lion's relentlessness, it gradually lost its strength and was exhausted. After a long time, it finally collapsed while panting heavily. The lion lying on its prey was also breathing heavily. As his breathing rose and fell, the muscles on his body were filled with vitality and beauty. It was very shocking. This lion was very gentle when it took care of its cubs, but it was really wild when it hunted. It was probably the combination of gentleness and wildness that made him choose this rugged path that defied the heavens. At this moment, the surroundings were very quiet. There was a calm but not calm atmosphere lingering after the shock. But in fact, such a scene happened on the grassland every day. Today was just a very normal occurrence. Xiao Qixi did not feel that there was anything special about it. At most, he felt that deer meat and deer blood were more nutritious. He licked the blood at the corner of his mouth and wondered if the little cubs could eat it. During the process of the lion killing its prey, the cubs hiding in the grass tensed up their fur and their eyes were filled with nervousness. However, when they saw that the hunt was over, the 5 fur balls immediately turned into coquettishness and walked out while whining. Seeing the cubs whining and trotting towards the lion and its prey, the photographers could not help but feel a sense of separation. Ferocity and barbarism disappeared, leaving behind a warm family meal. They did not know when the fur balls had developed the habit of not eating their prey first, but getting tired of it first. After the touching segment, it was time to eat. Xiao Qixi was helpless and warm. He could not help but think of himself acting coquettishly to Ao Daisai when he was young. When he first came to the grassland, he missed Ao Daisai very much. That month had been relatively empty. Later, he picked up 5 cubs and did not have time to think so much. He just felt that his heart was filled. This once made Xiao Qixi wonder if he was a scumbag who forgot about the old when he had the young. Of course not. It was just that he had temporary emotional sustenance. He believed that he and Ao Daisai were fated to meet again. The important task now was to raise the cubs first. Xiao Qixi, who had experienced extreme gentleness, wanted to pass on this love from the bottom of his heart. Loving the cubs was equivalent to loving his Ao Daisai. He tore open the blood-red deer meat and fed it to Do, who seemed to be full just by touching it, urging him to eat quickly. This male wild deer was quite big. If they did not encounter bandits who intercepted them, their family could eat 2 meals. The high temperature would cause the meat to spoil. 24 hours was the limit. Although lions also ate rotten meat, Xiao Qixi tried his best not to let his cubs eat it. It was too smelly. He would not be able to clean the fur of the children. The deer meat tasted good. It was time for the cubs to have blood on their faces and for their parents to worry about them. People realized that the white lion, who had never been treated well by the grassland, was like a treasure to the male lion. The beautiful and cute white lion was blatantly favored by the male lion, but it did not mean that the male lion was not good to the other cubs. He was simply too good to be expected. This was undoubtedly a very shocking video. The information obtained was immediately sent back to the headquarters. The most important part was to edit the video and announce a shocking piece of good news. Just the editing of this video was enough to make everyone in the office excited. It turned out that this was the reason why the male lion could raise 5 cubs. He was very wild, very strong, and very smart. They did not dare to imagine what kind of transformation he would undergo at his peak. March 5th was a very special and important day for the hardcore fans of the Norman family. 25 years ago, the twin Lion Kings were recorded from this day onwards. This was the beginning of their dreams. Those who loved them would always remember it. Your battles gave me the courage to overcome all difficulties. You are the indestructible lion in my heart. Today, I am prepared to drink myself to death. I will stay up all night to pay tribute to you who have left. I will also pay tribute to the lost time of yesterday. Many people thought so, but sorry, their drinking and staying up all night was destined to become tears of joy and partying all night. At 9 o'clock in the morning, many people had not woken up from their dreams. At this time, the official account of the Norman Family Alliance forwarded a video with a caption, "Thank you, new life." People thought that this account was completely silent. They did not expect to see it again. Why? Did it start to accept advertisements? They clicked on the video angrily. A family photo came into view. On a high stone pile, 5 cubs were nestled beside a young male lion. All of them were looking at the camera, coolly. The anger of the hardcore fans suddenly disappeared. Instead, it turned into doubt, speculation, and disbelief. Oh no. The lineup of 4 yellow lions and 1 white lion was so familiar. Other than the 4th generation of the Norman family, who else could it be on the grassland? Impossible. Is this a composite photo? An April Fool's prank? Which stupid guy made this video? Is this very fun? Many people began to get angry after their doubts. They were even angrier than before. This was not a joke, okay? What was going on? The officials wanted to have a taste of the muscular man's fist. Hey, brothers. The official account would not joke about this. Everyone, calm down. A fan advised. This was an official account. It would not fool the fans. Due to the intense reaction of the fans, the official account of the Norman Family Alliance had to give an explanation. Otherwise, they were really afraid that a group of tattooed men would come to the headquarters to block them. Norman Family Alliance. First of all, I would like to apologize to everyone. More than a month ago, we announced the death of the 4th generation. However, we were lucky to find out that they are still alive. They were saved by a male lion that evening. Oh, that's right. This male lion is from the Magic Red Alliance. It was just chased out by the pride to survive on its own. Its name is Yolashanda. It's really a very good lion. If everyone is patient enough to watch the video, you will definitely think so. This short notice was read several times by the hardcore fans. The first emotion that came was crying. Although most of them were a group of burly men, the cubs were still alive. Oh. The commotion created today was no less than the day the 4th generation was announced dead. After calming down a little, people could not wait to watch the video. A kid from the Magic Red Alliance, right? First, accept a 90-degree bow from them. After watching the video, they had already knelt down. All the hardcore fans of the Norman family. Boss, please take care of the children like this every day in the future. How many knees do you want? Sob. Dempus called his son, Stanford, and said while choking with sobs, "Quickly contact a reliable tattoo artist for me. I want to tattoo Yolashanda's face on my other arm. Immediately. Oh yeah, it's best if I can attend the party with a new tattoo. Long live the Norman family." Stanford, this year's March 5th was really a good day. The Norman fans should be more fanatical than in previous years. Cough. Because the Magic Red Alliance fans also participated in the party. The Magic Red Alliance fans, who were at the peak of their power, did not find anyone pleasing to the eye. Of course, the Norman fans also did not find them pleasing to the eye. The older generation and the new generation always had some friction. However, today they were going to shake hands and make peace. For the sake of the 4th generation, Sheng found you pleasing to the eye. For the sake of Yolashanda, Sheng also found you pleasing to the eye. They clinked their beer glasses together and laughed loudly. Cheers! Dempus shuttled through the bar street with his new tattoo on his head and showed it to everyone. As a result, he received a lot of attention. This brother was having a great time today. From today onwards, let them and the Magic Red Boy protect the 4th generation and grow up healthily. The new official name was temporarily called the Six Lions Alliance. This name made people sigh with emotion. The second generation was also the Six Lions. Norman's fans, who had experienced ups and downs, no longer had any hopes of making a comeback. They just wanted to be safe. The glory of the past was kept in their hearts. The night in the city was full of singing and dancing. The night in the grassland was not peaceful either. A few pairs of eyes that reflected light shuttled through the grass. This was Xiao Qishi walking at night with the cubs. They were at the age of learning and should not live too peacefully. So why sleep? Get up and learn how to walk at night. Eldest, second, third, fourth, and fifth. The little lions yawned and tried their best to be alert. They shook their ears and carefully distinguished the various animal cries in the night, as well as their distance. Lions originally had the habit of going out at night and sleeping during the day. However, recently, the fur balls have been following the lions, and their days have been too peaceful. This was the reason why Xiao Qishi wanted to help them deal with the jet lag. A python that had come out to hunt at night had smelled the scent of life and had wandered over from the bushes. Pythons were one of the few common traps on the grassland. If one was not careful, they would die in the mouth of a snake. Xiao Qishi, who had long known that there was a python here, specially walked here to teach the little lions a lesson. She wanted to let them know the danger of pythons and how to prevent such danger from entangling them. After tilting their heads to look at the python, the little lions shook their claws and wanted to go back to sleep after class. Roar! A few sleepy cries spread in a small area. This area was about 2 feet around Xiao Qishi. Xiao Qishi. Class is over. Class is over. Xiao Xiao. Good fellow. You're even better at acting spoiled than I was in the past. Chapter 52. Not every time they slept, they could find a shelter from the wind and rain and a pile of dry stones. Occasionally, Xiao Qishi would bring the cubs to live in the open grassland and eat in the wind. This was not a good experience at all. Mosquitoes were one of the 3 major disasters of the grassland. They were everywhere and made the lions very frustrated. In order to let the furry balls have a good sleep, Xiao Qishi would always use her tail to drive away the mosquitoes before they slept. It could be said that she was very dedicated. When such a small detail was recorded, it simply poked at a certain point. Although Yulashanda took care of the cubs like a lioness, and although Yulashanda's tail could drive away mosquitoes, he was handsome, wild, and his fangs could hunt deer. The new official account only updated a few videos, and a tide of followers came uninvited overnight. They left comments saying that they were crazily killed by Yulashanda with just one look. You are very gentle when you take care of the cubs, but you are really fierce when you hunt deer. About half a month later, which meant that the cameraman had been following Xiao Qishi's pride for a period of time, he more or less discovered a few problems. This lion was indeed something. The other party's observation skills were very strong, and he never went to dangerous places. Or was he lucky? In any case, the results were the same. The imagined story of taking care of the cubs on the grassland did not seem to be played out by this lion. The other party's tracking skills were very high. The cameraman paid special attention and realized that Yulashanda spent half an hour to an hour searching for prey. He rarely spent more than 2 hours. This was a rather heaven-defying ability. Another thing was that Yulashanda's food was quite good. 1 meal a day was the minimum. For the lions on the grassland, being able to maintain 1 meal a day was actually very good. Most pride could not guarantee that every lion would be full every day. On the other hand, Yulashanda's family would occasionally even have extra meals. After eating a full meal of wildebeests, they would also catch an antelope as a snack if they had the chance. To this, people only wanted to say, "You're not working like a lion." Yulashanda's cubs were probably the only cubs in the entire grassland who were chased and fed meat. Xiao Qishi. Let's make your childhood complete. It was not Xiao Qishi's fault. That was how Otis raised him all those years ago. Although he was fed to the point that he wanted to die, the roles were reversed. It was quite satisfying. What was the secret to growing tall and strong? Rice. It was difficult for the little lions not to grow up with 1 or even 2 full meals of meat a day. She felt that the children who were still skinny a while ago now had thick limbs, round heads, and small bellies in the blink of an eye. Usually, when they walked on the road, their posture was charming and enchanting. Every time he updated his video, a bunch of people would kneel down and call him daddy in the comment section. They were all impressed. Early in the morning, the last drizzle of rain fell on the grassland. It was weak and short, which meant that the rainy season was over and the grassland was about to welcome the dry season. The unique latitude and longitude made the climate of this grassland distinct. There are only two seasons, dry and wet. People were usually familiar with the dry season. Under the withered and vast landscape, the animals migrating in groups became people's deepest impression of the African grassland. His thick claws stepped on the wet ground, and the fragrance of soil and vegetation lingered at the tip of his nose. Xiao Qishi cherished the remaining greenery because he knew that life would not be easy. The bored cubs followed behind the lion with drooping eyelids. They were not in a straight line. On the contrary, they were very willful and liked to surround the lion. The little lion following behind him today finally could not resist the boring walk. He opened his mouth and bit the lion's tail. The moment he felt an itchy sensation on his tail, Xiao Qishi felt the dignity of a parent. He immediately turned around and wanted to shout at that naughty fellow. However, the moment he turned around, he saw that the one biting his tail was Little Doe. His anger immediately turned into laughter. It's Little Doe. It's fine. It's in children's nature to like biting tails. Let's play then. Eldest, second, third, and fourth. The storm came to an abrupt end. It did not seem to have caused any waves, but it did reveal the elders' favoritism. The 6 lions continued to walk peacefully. Chung Feng, who had a cunning look in his eyes, licked his lips and suddenly walked to Little Doe's side. He actually snatched Little Doe's tail for fun. The cameraman immediately became nervous. Their first reaction was bullying. White Lion was always treated unfairly. People had a deep impression of him being weak and helpless. However, this time, it was purely because their imaginations were too rich. First of all, the older brothers would not bully White Lion's younger brother. Secondly, the food at home had been good recently. Little Doe ate as much as his older brothers, and his height and weight had caught up. In terms of physique, he was not inferior to his older brothers. When Second came to snatch something, Little Doe did not show any signs of dodging or fear. He calmly faced him head-on. Xiao Qishi was very supportive of the competition between the two brothers, but could he not let his tail get involved? It really hurt to be hit by teeth. Even though Xiao Qishi had withdrawn her tail, Chung Feng and Daodu were still pouncing on each other. Whoa, be it the parents or the cameraman, all of them seemed to be enjoying the show. One had to know that watching a Lashanda hunting deer was barbaric and bloody. However, watching 2 little lions fight was adorable. Come on, let the storm come more intense. They could take it. Just as they thought this, the UNZ, who liked to join in the fun, also joined in the battle. This brainless little thing, at first, pounced on Little Doe with Second, then turned around and attacked Chung Feng. Xiao Qishi, so cute. No, cub, do your best. If you win, Daddy will give you more food. Ow! Fourth brother, Qing Shuang, stood at the side and yawned. He looked lazy and especially bored. It was precisely because he was too bored that his expression seemed to be thinking, should I join in too? Qing Shuang's gaze was originally fixed on the 3 brothers who were rolling around, but for some reason, he suddenly glanced at third brother, who was staying out of it. The cool brother, Purple Lightning, caught fourth brother's gaze and instantly put on alert, with a look that said, don't mess with me. Xiao Qishi saw the 2 of them looking at each other, and the unreliable parent, Xiao Qishi thought to himself, let's get angry, let's get angry. However, it was a pity that one of the brothers was too lazy and the other was too cool. In the end, they did not fight. After thinking about it, Xiao Qishi still hoped that the fight would be more lively. He casually took a step forward to scam them. When he passed by Purple Lightning, he suddenly pounced on third brother like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. Third brother, who was inexperienced, was unsurprisingly pressed under Xiao Qishi's chest. At this moment, this cool lion's mask was temporarily broken. His eyes widened in disbelief. Xiao Qishi lowered his head and met third brother's eyes. He immediately felt a wave of joy, because under his unexpected attack, purple lightning did not bare his fangs at him. Furthermore, his pupils dilated instead of constricted. This proved that he was purely surprised and not vigilant or resistant. The little fellow trusted him quite a bit. Xiao Qishi lowered his head happily and licked Purple Lightning's face. At this moment, the other party came back to his senses and looked like he was struggling. That would not do. The more he struggled, the more Xiao Qishi wanted to lick him a few more times. Although he knew that this was perverted, it was a rare opportunity. This tug-of-war of forcing a good girl into prostitution lasted for a few minutes. When Xiao Qishi finally had his fill, he turned around and found 4 pairs of eyes looking at him. Xiao Qishi. He remembered that the little fur balls were all pouncing on each other. What did they squat in a row? While Xiao Qishi was in a daze, Purple Lightning struggled out of his claws and flashed to the side to shake his fur. He looked like he did not want to get close to this lion, even if he died. In contrast, Dote took the initiative to lean forward for kisses and hugs. Of course, Xiao Qishi was happy to hug him. Look, your fur is messy from the fight. Daddy will smooth it for you. In the battle, just now, he guessed that second brother must be more powerful, right? No. Only the photographers knew that this white lion was actually not at a disadvantage against his brother. Even though he was still young, he had shown extraordinary potential. If he could grow up successfully, he would definitely be very strong. But for some reason, this white lion liked to act coquettishly. Even when he was fighting, he waved his claws vigorously. Once he turned his head and retracted his claws to quiet down, he became a lion. Perhaps it was because he was good-looking and had an inherent impression that he would always make people subconsciously dote on him. The photographers seemed to completely understand the lion's preference. After the sun completely peeled off from the clouds, it quickly dried up the drizzle, and the ground finally became dry. The few lions who were hurrying on their way were panting from the sun. They were thirsty, but could not find a water source. The few cubs licked their dry tongues. Xiao Qishi, I told you to sleep at night and move around during the day. Are you dumbfounded by the sun? With the arrival of the dry season, it was not so easy to get a water source. They had to go to a place with a water source to live. It would be more dangerous there. The surrounding animals would be denser, including ferocious carnivores and ferocious omnivores. Or could they be called water hooligans? For example, the 2 hippo and rhinoceros who lived by the water source and acted like a tyrant. They had basically designated the water source as their territory. It seemed that the animals who wanted to drink water had to depend on their mood. Dragging their curved tails, they walked until evening. The cubs refused to walk anymore. They shamelessly lay on the ground, turned over, exposed their bellies, and played with their brothers. The lion could not do anything to them and could only stop to rest. Their last meal was more than 10 hours ago. In fact, they could not go hunting today, but the cubs might be hungry in the middle of the night. After hesitating for a moment between being lazy and not being lazy, Yelishanda, who was trying so hard that he did not look like a lion, rushed forward without hesitation. At the moment, the cubs were not the only ones who needed to eat more. There was a group of black antelopes wandering nearby. They seemed to want to decide on a place to rest before the sky turned dark, but they did not notice that there was a lion nearby with a belly full of evil tricks. Xiao Qishi took advantage of the alternating day and night to capture a black antelope from the other party's camp. This was definitely a surprise for the cubs. In fact, they were all crying out in joy. However, this place was different from the tranquility from before. The smell of blood would always attract attention when it spread. A group of hyenas were coming over after hearing the news. They were about 4 kilometers away from here. That was very close. Hence, Xiao Qishi urged the cubs to eat as much as they could. They could not meet the hyenas. The cubs, who were almost a year old, were not young anymore. Their insight and vigilance were vividly reflected in them. There was almost no need for Xiao Qishi's reminder. After smelling the hyenas, the usually lazy little lions opened their fangs and tore at the antelope meat with all their might. It was not an exaggeration to describe them as wolfing down the meat. The large pieces of meat were swallowed down their throats before they could chew. Xiao Qixi was also helping the cubs tear the meat. They were racing against time. Holding the last piece of meat in his mouth, Xiao Qixi sent out a signal to retreat. Although the cubs were reluctant, they still retreated obediently. The orderly scene stunned the photographers because after the lions left, a group of hyenas arrived as expected. At this moment, the figures of the lions had already disappeared into the grass and quickly walked away. The cubs, who had eaten half their fill in a race against time, still had blood on their faces. They were licking their lips as they walked. After walking out of the danger zone, everyone relaxed. The cubs immediately snatched the last piece of meat from the lion's mouth. Roar, roar, these furry balls rubbing around seemed to be saying, give it to me, I want it." As the saying goes, one does not worry about scarcity, but about uneven distribution. How could one piece of meat be divided? For the sake of the harmony between the brothers, Xiao Qixi ate the piece of meat himself. Eldest, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Without the temptation of this piece of meat, they walked in front and faced Xiao Qixi with their butts. "Xiao Qixi, why does this brat have two faces?" After walking from dark to late at night, the little pride successfully found a satisfactory place to spend the night. With the meat just now to fill their stomachs, the cubs could sleep until noon tomorrow and not be hungry. This period of time was the most peaceful time for Xiao Qixi. Because the baby was asleep, he was quiet and leisurely. But sometimes there were one or two delicate people who refused to sleep and needed him to coax them. It was most likely Do. Occasionally, it was Chung Feng and Big Yuanzi. As for fourth, he slept soundly without needing to be coaxed. As for third, he never knew if he was sleeping or not. A mysterious lion. It had not rained on the grassland since that day. The weather became dry and drier day by day. 3 days later, Xiao Qixi brought the cubs to a water source and sniffed the air. Good Lord, the smell was very mixed. It was indeed a gathering of heroes from all walks of life. There was still plenty of water now. They could choose some places that were not occupied by animals. When the water source shrank, it would be the real challenge. But it was still easy for the time being. It had not rained for a period of time, so it did not change the surrounding plants much. The grass and bushes on the shore were still lush. The cubs explored back and forth on the shore because this was the first time they had seen a crocodile. All of them huddled together and breathed at the crocodile as if they were crazy. In this place, crocodiles did not have any natural advantages. Hippos and rhinoceroses ate them like spicy strips. Even leopards could catch them for lunch. Therefore, they naturally knew how to clamp their tails and be fish. Even when they were provoked by the cubs, they only narrowed their eyes and pretended to be dead. It was precisely because he knew that the crocodiles here had been beaten up by society that Xiao Qixi was not too worried that the cubs would be attacked. In general, lions were still at the top of the food chain for crocodiles. There was nothing wrong with familiarizing himself with his prey in advance. The crocodile, ? With a flick of its tail, it slipped away. Without the crocodiles eyeing them covetously in the water, the cubs lined up and squatted on the shore to drink water. Their shoulders were high, their tails were raised, and their pink tongues licked the water frequently. The photographer captured this extremely cute scene. At this moment, the cubs already had the heroic spirit of a lion and were no longer childish. It was all thanks to another lion that they had been pulled from a thin child to a young teenager. That very unique lion was resting under the shade of a tree, as if it had handed the responsibility of looking after the babies to the photographer. Xiao Qixi was not the only one worried that this dry season would be very difficult. The better the 5 cubs were raised by him, the more worried people were about losing them. Almost every update made people on tenterhooks. Only when they received news that they were safe would they heave a sigh of relief and look at it repeatedly. How cute! The mental appearance of the 5 cubs was completely different from before, including when the pride was not in dire straits. They looked like 5 ordinary cubs. Now, they were clean and handsome, as if their bodies were emitting light. No matter what, they could attract people's attention. As more and more information was updated, people also had a rough idea. They had a preliminary understanding of every lion and the relationship between this combined family. This could not help but make people like these lions who had different personalities but clearly loved each other more. Not every lion on the grassland was loyal. It was also possible that they would raise an ingrate from hell who would hurt their family. However, this family that was miraculously combined would definitely not be like that. The gathering of animals did not necessarily increase the chances of success in hunting. Instead, for a sneak attack player like Xiao Qixi, an empty field was clearly more suitable for him to perform. After drinking enough water, they had to leave this place to avoid being targeted by malicious eyes. Not only was Xiao Qixi's family of 6 about to face the challenge, a portion of the wandering lions who were alone also urgently needed to find allies to fight against the difficulties together. There was a lion looking for allies upstream of this river. His name was Jeremy, and he was a wandering lion about 4 years old. He came from a large alliance and was chased out after he was 3 years old. For some reason, he did not form an alliance with his biological brother or cousin, causing him to wander until now. Jeremy's name meant that he received a lot of attention. Perhaps he was a star of the new generation on this grassland. However, because he was a lone wandering lion, people did not deliberately track him. Sometimes, when they could not see Jeremy, people would guess that he had been killed. Anyway, many missing lions on the grassland died in the end. Thankfully, when people were tracking Yulashanda's family, they actually saw Jeremy. Hence, they hurriedly reported this news back to reassure some people who were paying attention to Jeremy. Xiao Qixi also smelled Jeremy's scent. However, he was not very worried about being alone, but he still left with the cubs. Jeremy, who had drunk enough water, also left the shore. He seemed to have been disturbed by something and was searching for something. Soon, Xiao Qixi realized that the lion was following behind him, but the other party's expression was quite calm and he did not emit an aggressive aura. The communication between lions was usually very direct and simple. Malice and kindness were clear at a glance, and they would not play any tricks. Xiao Qixi blinked and clearly received the signal that this lion wanted to be on good terms with him. This shocked him. He could not help but wonder if this lion had bad eyesight. First of all, he was not the best choice to be an ally with 5 burdens. However, it did not seem like the other party wanted to bite the cubs to death before forming an alliance with him. Lions were very different from female lions. This method could not make the lion submit. It would only make the lion go crazy. Therefore, after thinking about it, could it be that the other party was here to pay for it? Damn, Xiao Qixi was thinking about how to reject him. No matter how ignorant he was, he knew that in the eyes of the lions, forming an alliance was equivalent to being gay friends. Xiao Qixi did not want to be gay friends. He was still waiting for Ao Daisai. On the other side, the photographer team was also in an uproar because of Jeremy's goodwill to Yulashanda. They went from disbelief to covering their mouths and laughing secretly because they felt that Yulashanda could indeed agree to Jeremy's pursuit. It was said that Jeremy was an outstanding boy. He had high expectations for his allies, which was why he had chosen them until now. If Jeremy and Yulashanda were together, they could share the hardships of raising children. The author has something to say. Today's topic: should we enjoy ourselves when an outstanding third party interferes in the long wait? Chapter 53. When the other party walked and stopped, looking at him the entire time, Xiao Qixi was even more certain that this young lion wanted to come into contact with him. Perhaps he wanted to sniff each other's scent on the grass, including their special parts. Animals were like this. At that time, if both sides were satisfied, they would roll around in each other's arms. They could also treat this as a ritual for the lions to form an alliance. However, Xiao Qixi did not want to be allies with this lion, not only because he was thinking about Ao Daisai. When this lion approached, before Xiao Qixi could react, he heard several intense exhalations. He looked and saw that the brats who were originally scattered around and walking lazily were actually arching their bodies, and their fur stood on end. They wrinkled the skin on the backs of their noses and breathed fiercely at the lion. Oh, they've improved? Previously, when they encountered danger, they would only hide under his abdomen. Now, they had only grown a little and actually dared to show their claws at the lion. Xiao Qi praised their courage, but to be honest, they were brave, but not smart. They had underestimated their enemy too much. Okay? The few cubs were fragile now. They would definitely die if they provoked the lion. In order to avoid bloodshed, Xiao Qi decided to ignore the lion's goodwill. He retreated, growled at the children, and turned to leave. When the other party expressed that they were not interested in forming an alliance, the gentlemanly lions would choose to give up. However, there were also special infatuated examples. They would continue to follow the allies they liked until the other party accepted their goodwill or chased them away. The situation differed from lion to lion. Jeremy was rejected. The photographers felt pity for him from a distance, but they also knew Yolashanda's concerns. Perhaps Yolashanda did not dislike Jeremy, but was worried that the cubs would not hit it off with Jeremy. The current situation did not seem to hit it off. From the moment the cubs saw Jeremy, they changed from their usual docile and cute appearance to baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. In short, they showed tons of disgust towards Jeremy's approach. They could not form an alliance like this. Jeremy, who was being treated with hostility and disregard, seemed to know that he was not welcome and stopped. It feels so wrong. The bystander felt pity for it. Under the camera, Jeremy's gaze was still following Xiao Qi, who was avoiding him like a snake. His expression was very helpless, as if he did not expect that the first time he took the initiative to show his goodwill, he would fail. In the end, he still made the decision to continue following. His intention to take things slowly was obvious. Xiao Qi walked for a while and found that the lion was still following behind him. He couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Isn't this guy a little stubborn? It didn't matter to him since the lion wouldn't fight him anyway. The problem was that his presence would affect the little lions around him. Didn't he see that all of them were tense, and their eyes never left the male lion? Xiao Qi felt very helpless. He could not defeat that lion, and at the same time, he did not have any good way to chase it away. He could only turn back a few steps, open his mouth, and bite the back of the neck of the white lion that was rushing at the front, bringing this audacious cub back. Roar! The white lion was originally quite fierce, but the moment it was picked up, it curled up into a ball and docilely retracted its claws. However, from an angle that Xiao Qi could not see, his ice-blue eyes were always staring coldly at the lion opposite him. It was not that he was daring. Perhaps he was just mad. Otherwise, he would not have used his little cub's body to challenge a lion that could already survive on its own. This was too contrary to the nature of a lion cub. Xiao Qi was shocked just now. Could it be that I'm raising the children wrong? The litter of children were all so stubborn. It seemed that they had not been beaten enough. The remaining cubs saw Xiao Qi throw their brother on the lawn and roared at them angrily. Yes, this was the lion language that Xiao Qi invented after the bear language. He did not care if the cubs could understand what he meant. Anyway, he liked to nag and had to listen even if they did not want to. Hearing this roar, the cubs were not afraid, but they still had to give Xiao Qi face. They cooperatively put away their claws and returned to Xiao Qi's side to kiss him. Except for third brother. This enigmatic lion stood guard between the unfamiliar lion and its pride, licking its claws coldly. Doe, who had been thrown to the ground, sat up and slowly licked its claws. What's wrong? Is it the rebellious period? Xiao Qi ignored them. He seemed to have finally realized that half-grown children could not be spoiled, so he left with Big Yuanzi and the other two brothers. Third brother and fifth brother stood guard for a while. Third brother got up first and left unhurriedly. At this moment, Doe got up and stayed behind for his brothers. This white lion is really bold. No, I remember that last time. He was frightened by a small lizard that suddenly jumped out and even acted coquettishly with Yolashanda. What a scheming boy. As they continued on their way, Xiao Qixi occasionally turned back to see if the male lion had left. At the same time, he also checked on Dou's situation. He saw that the other party had been walking at the back with a rare cold expression on his face. Of course, when he met his gaze, he did not seem so serious. However, he did not come forward to act coquettishly, as if he was afraid of the unfamiliar lion or angry that he had been thrown to the ground. With Xiao Qixi understanding of Dou, he felt that it should be the former. This situation made the parents feel a little conflicted. When the child was clingy and coquettish, he felt annoyed. When the child grew up a little and showed more mature behavior, Xiao Qixi would feel a little disappointed. In fact, when he was holding Dou in his mouth just now, he had already felt that Dou was too heavy. If he continued holding it like this, it would hurt, so he anxiously threw Dou to the ground. It was really an accident. Because of the obstruction of a group of burdens, Jeremy had not been able to find a breakthrough to get close to Xiao Qixi. After patiently following for a while, they encountered a group of wildebeests. The stalemate between the 7 lions finally ushered in a change because of these wildebeests. Xiao Qixi swore that he did not come here specifically to look for wildebeests. He just casually found a direction that was not dangerous and planned to stay at night. He subconsciously looked at the reaction of the cubs, only to see that the cubs had finally divided their attention to the wildebeests, but they only glanced at them once. They seemed to be between a little hungry, but not very hungry. When Xiao Qixi was hesitating whether to hunt or not, the wandering lion that was following them passed them and walked towards the wildebeests. It seemed that he was going to hunt. "Oh," Xiao Qixi thought to himself, "then I'll see you." He was overjoyed and immediately left this troublesome place with the cubs. Lions needed a process to hunt. Not every lion was talented in hunting. Perhaps by the time this lion hunted the wildebeests, their family would already be thousands of miles away. Well, no matter how bad it would still be 10 miles away. The little lions seemed to understand Xiao Qixi's intention and quickly followed. They even trotted on the grass, their 5 little tails sticking up and down, as if they were happy to get rid of the hooligan. After leaving the range that Jeremy could track, the atmosphere of the little lions clearly returned to normal. Although the little lions did not know how to speak human language and did not high-five Xiao Qixi to celebrate, they would turn into little sweethearts and Xiao Qixi. They were not at all fierce as before. They were just acting coquettishly. But today, Dou did not come forward to be intimate with them. He had been walking at the back. The appearance of the wandering lion seemed to make him very concerned. Originally, Xiao Qixi wanted to put on the airs of strict parent and did not want to continue spoiling this group of adolescent brats that might lead them astray. But after putting on airs for a full 2 minutes, he could not help but feel guilty. Dou, who was ignored by everyone, was quite pitiful. It had even fallen because of his slip just now. Should he comfort it? Xiao Qixi stopped in place and waited for Dou to come up. He turned his head and rubbed against it. "Roar," Dou responded. Xiao Qixi realized that the scene of the other party walking over was full of the demeanor of a big boss. Indeed, it was a white lion that could survive. Xiao Qixi thought that Dou would grow up overnight through today's opportunity. But obviously, he was thinking too much. Dou, who had only been cool for a while, jumped up and rubbed his face. Then, it walked in front with cat steps, as if it had succeeded. "Okay," Xiao Qixi announced that the cubs had officially entered puberty. Jeremy, who had been left near the wildebeest herd to wait for an opportunity to hunt, had originally planned to attract future allies by showing his strength. Unfortunately, by the time he had hunted the wildebeest, the ally he had taken a fancy to had already fled. Jeremy, he was definitely the second generation of the innate talent school. Facing the prey that he could not finish eating, he rather blankly licked the blood from his mouth, as if he did not understand what had gone wrong. According to human logic, he, who had such good conditions, did not despise the other party for having a family to feed, but the other party actually looked down on him. Of course, this simple lion did not have the idea of being a wily old fox. It was just that the story of his encounter with Yolashanda was known by humans, and someone had taken his role and made a sound. It was indeed a pity that Yolashanda had lost such an excellent ally like Jeremy, because she cared about the thoughts of the little lions. If the little lions were willing to accept Jeremy's approach, it would be equivalent to them being raised by two lions with unlimited potential. Then, their chances of survival would definitely increase by several times. But it was a pity that the little lions seemed to only accept Yolashanda's raising. They showed complete resistance to Jeremy's approach, especially the white lion and the more solitary little lion. The two brothers' personalities were the most prominent. It could be expected that when they grew up, they would be the main force of output. In Xiao Qishi's opinion, among these little ancestors, the second son, Chengfeng, had the best overall qualities. The rest were biased towards Java. After shaking off Jeremy, the group of wildebeest that they had missed by chance kept appearing in the minds of every lion. Thus, Xiao Qishi decided to eat her fill first before finding a place to rest. Xiao Qishi, who was living near a water source for the first time, realized that eating here was a race against time. Often, shameless bandits would come before they were full. Furthermore, this group of bandits would come in different ways. Sometimes it was a pack of hyenas, sometimes a pack of wild dogs. There were also many situations where they encountered lions. They were all masters that they could not afford to offend. When Xiao Qishi encountered such a situation, she could only hide far away with the children. Later on, this situation even happened when they were sleeping. The family of 6 finally found a place to rest, but they were chased away by a patrolling lion in the middle of the night. F***CK. This lion was probably scolded by the lionesses for his premature ejaculation, or had he eaten too much rotten meat. Coming out to patrol in the middle of the night, he was crazy. Even though Xiao Qishi was cursing and swearing, she could only lead the 5 brothers to escape in a wretched manner. They had encountered such things so many times since the start of the dry season that they had become used to it. Xiao Qishi felt very sorry. He only found a place to stay at dawn. He licked the frightened children one by one, hoping that they could forget the bad experience. Fortunately, the cubs were forgetful. Although they were very nervous when they were chased by the lion, they quickly returned to normal after escaping danger. Of course, they could not be happier that Xiao Qishi was willing to coax them. At night, oh no, when they lay down to sleep at dawn, they were still stacked one on top of another. Every cub wanted to be the one at the top. They had a special obsession with this. This way, Xiao Qishi was always at the bottom. He did not have a strong body, and even his head was like a lion's. Because he was not familiar with Lao San, Xiao Qishi would always look for Lao San. On his back tonight, the only part of his body that was in contact with him was his tail. Do's sleeping posture today was rather wild and unruly. Its snow-white abdomen was almost pressed against Xiao Qishi's face. After all, Xiao Qishi was used to licking them from the moment he picked them up. Occasionally, Xiao Qishi would find an opportunity to lick them everywhere. Tonight, Do came to him so wildly. Without any distracting thoughts, Xiao Qishi took advantage of the situation and realized that Do's abdomen was no longer as soft as when it was young. It was hard. After his teasing, Do came down from his head and looked at him with its beautiful blue eyes, as if to say, "Are you done licking?" Xiao Qishi and Do looked at each other awkwardly. However, all this seemed to be just his imagination. Do had just changed its sleeping posture. Because they had spent most of the day hiding, by the time they had a good night's sleep, everyone's stomachs were rumbling with hunger. Xiao Qishi, who wanted to sleep in again, sighed. When will this child grow up? He missed the first month when he came here. Although it was lonely, empty, and cold, he was a salted fish. Of course, this saying was wrong. The seasons in the northern and southern hemispheres were opposite. It was now autumn in the southern hemisphere. The plants slowly turned yellow, and the grassland showed a familiar appearance. If there was a competition, it seemed that the herbivores were more miserable because their food was decreasing rapidly. Even the carnivores were miserable because their food was becoming thinner. Without the nourishment of the rain, everything looked dry. The lions walked lazily under the sun and had to stick out their tongues to dissipate the heat. This confirmed Xiao Qishi's idea of helping them deal with the jet lag. Definitely tomorrow. However, on the bright side, The lions were resting at this time. Even if the lions came out to patrol, they would turn a blind eye and not attack if they could. Pretty good. The giraffes, who were born with an advantage, were eating the few leaves on the canopy. Their beautiful figures attracted the lions who were on their way. They were as engrossed as the beauties they saw on the street. A few cubs even looked back at Xiao Qixi. Their intention to instigate him was self-evident. Xiao Qixi could not be bothered with them. Do giraffes? You think too highly of Daddy. Don't worry, if we rush up, the giraffes will definitely kill Daddy. Then, you will all become orphans and die. Realizing that Xiao Qixi did not plan to hunt, the adolescent cats, whose appetites had greatly increased, licked their mouths. Although they were reluctant to part with him, they would do it themselves when they grew up. After all, they were near a water source and there were many animals around. Not long after, they encountered a group of African water buffaloes. The little lions' eyes lit up. Do it? Xiao Qixi. Do it to your heads. After leaving the water buffaloes, they looked very disappointed and walked forward sulkily with drooping ears. After all, they were hungry. Were all adolescent males the same? Did they think that they were invincible in the universe? Couldn't they have a little self-awareness? Today's menu was still wildebeest. It had a lot of meat and was relatively easy to hunt. It was the best choice for poor families with poor combat power. It was not that Xiao Qixi did not want to enrich the children's diet, but his strength did not allow it. 2 months ago, a wildebeest weighing 400 to 500 kilograms was enough for their family to eat 2 meals. Now, they finished it all in 1 meal, and the good-for-nothings were still licking their lips and yearning for more. Xiao Qixi could not help but feel very fortunate. When these little brats fought for food, they would only fight among themselves. No one dared to touch their own land. Look, Boss and Doe both took a fancy to the wildebeest's liver. They each bit one end and did not let go. The 2 lions made whining sounds in their throats, both threatening each other to let go. Xiao Qixi gave up. This liver was at least 2 to 3 kilograms. Couldn't they eat it separately? He stretched out his mouth and divided the liver into 2 halves. No one was biased, but the 2 lions did not seem very satisfied. They were not happy when there was food to eat. Why didn't they go to heaven? Boss and Lao Wu. They want to blatantly show favoritism. Xiao Qixi. I think they want to beat him up blatantly. But to be honest, Boss was indeed stronger after eating. He did not know if he could fight, but it was true that he could eat. Vulture, who was standing on the tree, had been waiting for this piece of leftover food for too long. He could not help but flap his wings and approach. Boss had not eaten the liver yet, although he was not satisfied. After all, he had taken a fancy to it first. However, he would not allow the feathered bandit to covet his food. No one expected Boss to turn around and attack Vulture. This time, it was especially fierce. It was as if he was angry but did not dare to vent his anger, so he took it out on others. Vulture's neck was bitten off by Boss. He lay on the ground lifelessly and no longer flapped his wings. Xiao Qixi held his breath. He could not believe that this was the cute and adorable big UNZ, but thinking about it, the little fur balls had grown up. Now, they wanted to show their fangs and claws at the slightest provocation. It seemed that only Xiao Qixi was surprised. The rest of the cubs did not react and continued to eat their food. In the end, Doe ate half of the liver and lay back to continue eating. 20 minutes later, they finally left the remains to Vulture and left, licking their lips. Being sleepy after eating was not only applicable to humans, but also to lions. The sun made them lazy, and they were too lazy to even move their tails. They found the cool shade of a tree and just wanted to lie down and rest. However, their parents wanted to practice with them. After all, they had grown up and had not learned much fighting skills. This was also because Xiao Qixi was usually too busy and the children grew up too quickly. Before he could react, the little fur ball had become a big fur ball. If he did not practice now, he would not have time. Who should he practice fighting with first? Xiao Qixi was not picky. He casually caught 4th brother, Qing Shuang, who was licking his claws beside him. After the other party was pounced on by him, he lay on the ground with his abdomen exposed, looking like he was at his mercy. What should he say about this result? Xiao Qixi was not surprised, because fourth brother was very lazy to begin with. He gave up on fourth brother and turned to pounce on another one. It was eldest brother who had fiercely bitten Vulture just now. The other party's eyes widened, and he wagged his tail happily, as if he thought that Xiao Qixi was playing with him. Damn, where was his fighting spirit? What happened to being rebellious? Why was he still thinking about playing? It turned out that he was only fierce when he was angry while eating. Afraid that eldest brother would pester him to play with him, Xiao Qixi immediately left his side and pounced on second brother Chingfeng's back, launching a sneak attack. When faced with danger, the other party should at least resist. Changfeng was pressed under his body and looked back at Xiao Qixi innocently. His eyes seemed to say, "So you like to play with this?" Xiao Qixi, wow, this was the child he had the highest hopes for. At least put up a fight. Second brother did not resist. He just drooped his eyebrows and allowed himself to be bullied. It was written all over his body. Do whatever you want. After a moment of stalemate, forget it. Xiao Qixi let go of the disappointing second brother and looked at the remaining two children for a moment. Third brother, who had witnessed a series of actions just now, seemed to be a little wary of him. He even revealed his claws and dug them into the ground. Xiao Qixi dared to swear that if he dared to pounce on him, third brother would definitely show his claws. Xiao Qixi moved, but he did not pounce on third brother. Instead, he pounced on Do. He had the least hopes for third brother after finishing him off. Do was stunned for a moment. He had been watching the show just now, and when he saw Xiao Qixi pounce on him, he instinctively dodged and then pounced on him. Xiao Qixi had only prepared for one attack. Who would have thought that there would be a follow-up? Hence, he was pounced on by Do. Although the man's weight did not pose a threat to him, he was still able to push him to the ground when he was caught off guard. The moment his back touched the ground, Xiao Qixi's body trembled. He looked at Do in shock and disbelief. At the same time, he was very pleased. Very good. After Do grew up, he was not delicate anymore. Instead, he was very fierce. Do succeeded in its attack and actually opened his fangs to bite Xiao Qixi's neck. His fangs sank into Xiao Qixi's neck for 2 seconds before he released his mouth and licked the place where he had bitten. Xiao Qixi did not hurt, but itched. Do, I won't hide it anymore. The one is me. Do had not recovered his memory yet. He was now just an ordinary lion with a sickly attribute. He would only regain his memory after a certain opportunity. As for his sickly attribute, it would be more obvious as he grew older. I want you to focus all your eyes on me, or something. Chapter 54. On this grassland, full of killing and uneasiness, the family of 6 cubs was playing leisurely. It was very rare, like a bowl of ice mung bean soup, relieving the summer heat, and also adding a trace of warmth to dispel fear. Yilashanda, the lion who led this group of 1-year-old cubs to make a living, was like a loving father every day, fully taking care of the needs of every cub. It was not hard to see that he was teaching the cubs how to fight, but it did not seem to be effective. Other than White Lion, who fought with him for a while, the other cubs did not resist. Even the cameraman could feel Xiao Qixi's helplessness. The reason why she was ambushed by Do earlier on was because she was caught off guard. Now that she had regained her senses, she realized that her Achilles' heel had been bitten. Immediately, Xiao Qixi flipped over and pinned Do down. Unexpectedly, Do, who had been quite prickly just now, was easily pressed down by him. After being pressed to the ground, it even stared at him with a pair of sparkling blue eyes, clearly saying, "Daddy, you're amazing," and so on and so forth. It made Xiao Qixi feel complicated. Could it be that no cub could understand his intention of teaching fighting? Why was it so soft that he could press down on it? Fortunately, at least there was still third brother to look forward to. He had already decided that the other party would show his claws no matter what. Thus, Xiao Qixi let go of the useless Do and confidently pounced on Purple Lightning, who was ready to fight. Come on, fight. Be an example to his brothers and let them know what a normal lion should be like. A normal lion would definitely fight back when faced with an attack. Under normal circumstances, Xiao Qixi was right, but he had forgotten that he had an improper relationship with these 5 cubs. when he pounced on Purple Lightning. Purple Lightning's first reaction was to run away. Although it was not to the extent of tucking its tail, its attitude of "don't touch me" was clear. Xiao Qi. Running away is also a strategy. Very good. I will continue to chase you until you fight back. So far, he was still full of expectations for third brother. Of course, the cubs could not run as fast as a 3-year-old lion. It was a fact that Purple Lightning would be caught. When Xiao Qi was about to catch up to him, perhaps he was desperate. Otherwise, he would not have done something like immediately lying on the ground. Xiao Qi braked and looked at the cubs on the ground with their bellies turned over. He froze for at least 5 or 6 seconds, unable to think. After a while, he licked his lips and accepted the fact that third brother could not do it either. Daddy was so disappointed. Xiao Qi, isn't it quite arrogant to face a wandering lion? The 5 brothers did not respond, and Xiao Qi was helpless. He could only give up on teaching them how to fight. However, after he lay down, the brats started fighting each other. Xiao Qi, good, you guys are very good. At first, Xiao Qi thought that the little brats were just playing around, but after watching the battle for a while, he realized that the little brats seemed to be serious. It was definitely not the cute fight from 2 months ago. On a closer look, he realized that Dou's style was unexpectedly ruthless. In terms of aura, it was more outstanding than the other brothers. It was fine when it was fighting Big Brother and the others, but when it was fighting third brother, its fur was flying everywhere. It was serious. Xiao Qi was stunned. Were all brothers fighting like this? Worried, he hurriedly went forward to separate the 2 fighting lions and then shouted at them. Why were they fighting? Were they too full? The brothers' reactions to being shouted at were worlds apart. Purple Lightning snorted disdainfully, turned around, walked to the side, and squatted down to clean up the messy fur on his body. Dou's expression changed extremely quickly. It immediately rubbed between Xiao Qi's limbs, trying to calm its parents' anger. Its innocent eyes seemed to say, it was just playing around. Xiao Qi was not angry. He just felt that Dou was too ruthless. He decided to teach this guy a lesson, but he could not bear to hit him. Forget it. The lesson he gave was to ignore Dou for the time being. Instead, he walked to Purple Lightning's side and lowered his head to help him tidy up the messy fur on his back. The fur on Purple Lightning's back trembled a few times, as if his stiff body wanted to dodge. But in the end, he ignored Xiao Qi and continued to lick his arm. The white lion, who was left behind, squatted on the ground and did not make a sound. It just stared at Xiao Qi and his brothers' backs for a long time. Of course, Xiao Qi did not agree with cold-blooded parenting. After he finished tidying up Purple Lightning's messy fur, he returned to Dou's side and gave it a very serious speech, hoping that the other party would realize his mistake from his attitude. Unfortunately, after talking for a long time, Dou only looked at him, as if happy that he was back. There was nothing else. That's right. Why did he have to brainwash a little lion for no reason? If he did this again next time, he would just beat him up. Forget it this time. No one cares about Fluffy's messy fur. Isn't it because he lost his parents at such a young age? Forget it. The more Xiao Qi thought about it, the more distressed he felt. He simply pulled him over and helped comb his fur. This family was too amusing. Such a warm and cute interaction was edited into a considerable amount of spiritual food and posted on their official account, relieving the torment of their followers who were crying piteously for food. There have always been very few warm images on the grassland, let alone a pride of lions. The Six Lions Alliance is really a clear stream in the lion world. They produce tons of sweet food every day. Other alliances rely on their awe-inspiring battle videos to attract fans. They belong to the proper Animal World channel. On the other hand, Yalashanda is a parenting channel. You know very well what kind of fans he has. I'm dying of laughter at this video of him teaching children. The sweetest father in the grassland, Yalashanda. If you're naughty again, I'll really hit you. Forget it. Let's eat wildebeest today. The daily sweetness of taking care of children. Please continue. Yalashanda said that your Norman family's comeback has nothing to do with me. I'm only responsible for feeding. Upstairs, no. He wanted to teach fighting, but he didn't succeed. Ha ha ha. This official account had indeed attracted a wave of new followers since its birth. They liked the warm growth history of the little lions, and the old fans seemed to prefer the iron-blooded style of the first and second generation of the Norman family. But it didn't matter. The tattooed men could imagine the future while insisting on watching the little lions and their guardians being lovey-dovey. As for survival, they were not worried. Everyone can see that Yolashanda is a powerful lion. Xiao Qixi, why do you trust me more than I trust myself? Even he himself could not guarantee that he could teach the little lions well, so he was quite anxious. At the same time, he was worried. The children were getting older, and their appetite had increased greatly. It was more difficult to take care of them. Full and hungry, this was the best portrayal of the dry season. Fortunately, after they grew up, their tolerance had greatly improved. They would no longer lose weight after starving for 2 days like before. Occasionally, when they really did not want to go hunting, Xiao Qixi would let them starve and experience the childhood that the little lions should have. Hunger would also stimulate the lions' desire to survive. The little lions who had been hungry would have an obvious increase in fighting spirit. Everyone looked like food days passed like this. As time passed, the entire land became drier and drier. The riverbed was drying up and cracking under the scorching sun. The animals wanted to drink water, so they could only slowly gather together. As a result, all kinds of animals, which usually found it difficult to gather together, gathered together like dumplings. This scene was really spectacular. Xiao Qixi brought the little lions to watch the zebras cross the river. He wanted to use the tragic scene of the zebras crossing the river to tell the little lions that the crocodiles in the river were very dangerous. They could not underestimate crocodiles and treat them as younger brothers. However, they did not see the scene of the crocodiles hunting the zebras. Instead, they saw 2 troublemaking hippos eating the crocodiles like spicy strips. Xiao Qixi. What a mistake. The cubs, on the other hand, were watching with relish. They even wanted to try what the crocodiles tasted like. Thus, Xiao Qixi decided to slip away with the cubs. This teaching material was not serious. On the way back, they encountered a pride from afar. It was a lion and 3 female lions. They were drinking water by the water with 7 or 8 half-year-old cubs. This was a slightly small pride. In fact, it was very easy for them to be invaded and annexed. Xiao Qixi sincerely hoped that this lion could withstand the provocation of the invaders and lead the pride to survive. This was because annexation meant that 7 or 8 cubs would be killed. When they walked over to drink water, the small pride also discovered that there were other lions here. The lion guarding his wife and children immediately became vigilant and prepared to fight at any time. However, the newcomer was a young lion with cubs. It did not seem to have the threat of invading the pride. Therefore, both sides, who were not very strong in combat, had no intention of fighting. Thus, they maintained a strange peace. Xiao Qixi stood in front, protecting the cubs while sizing up the cubs. He found that the cubs were a little thin and were not as well raised as his own. He was not showing off. He just felt sorry for the cubs. Your mother and aunts are not good. Why don't you come to my house? I can still raise 2 more. When Xiao Qixi was engrossed in looking at the cubs, his tail was suddenly bitten by Dou. He was in so much pain that his face wrinkled and he turned around. His eyes were full of what was going on. Ow! Dou blinked innocently and made way for him to drink water. Xiao Qixi understood. Oh, so it's asking me to drink water. Dou is so good. The pride downstream quickly left after drinking the water. After all, it was easy to encounter other wandering lions here. That would be dangerous. Xiao Qixi looked up and silently cheered the lion on. They were also lions with cubs, but lions with lionesses were more likely to be attacked because the lions needed to snatch lionesses to reproduce. If one were to take a closer look at these situations, they would be very barbaric and cruel. The cubs did not dare to stay after drinking the water. Although there were no lionesses to be snatched, Yolashanda felt that he was becoming more and more handsome. It was not impossible for a lioness to take a fancy to him. It was precisely because of Xiao Qishi's cautiousness that they were able to pass their days peacefully. As for the terrible things of having their food snatched, it was not worth mentioning. They had to go through it. In August, the number of animals gathered near the water source reached its peak. The lions, who liked to be alone and occupy their territory, were very uncomfortable, but there was nothing they could do. When the environment and climate were bad to a certain extent, animals that huddled together could always find a balance. Just like adult polar bears in the summer when food was scarce, they could also huddle together and get along peacefully. Of course, in this season where it was easy to get into a fight, bloodshed was inevitable and happened every day. Every time the 6 lions huddled together to sleep, they could always hear the blood-curdling howls, screams, and the roars of the male lions that made their hair stand on end. Sometimes, they even felt that the smell of blood was lingering at the tip of their noses. Invasion and being invaded, hunting and being hunted happen all the time. The local cubs seemed to be used to it and were no longer afraid of these movements. Only Xiao Qishi felt pity for the pride that had been invaded and the cubs that had been bitten to death. Perhaps the lion had been chased away, or perhaps it had been killed or escaped injured. If a lone lion escaped with injuries, the only outcome would be death, unless he had a place to go back. Xiao Qishi licked his brothers who did not like to act coquettishly anymore. He swore that he would always be their backing. As long as they came back to find him, he would not hesitate to go through fire and water. During the day, the pride of cubs, who had not eaten for almost 2 days, followed the footsteps of a group of elephants and moved elsewhere. There were too many lions in the place they were originally at, and hunting was very difficult. Following the elephants was the safest choice. Photographer Yelishanda is pulling wool again, but it had to be said that this was a very wise choice. They could find a water source by following the elephants. On the way, they encountered a pride of lions hunting water buffaloes. It was too risky to hunt when the water buffaloes were gathered in a group. Ordinary lions would not do this. Perhaps they were too hungry and had no choice. There were too many cubs to feed, so the lionesses could only take the risk. That was really dangerous. As long as they were unlucky enough to be hit by a water buffalo's horn, the lionesses would die on the spot with one blow. Now, the pride was being attacked by the water buffaloes. The scene was chaotic. Xiao Qishi could not bear to watch it first, but the little brats beside him were watching intently. He could only stop and wait. He had learned his lesson. Don't be too arrogant when he saw the water buffaloes in the future. In the end, he did not know if the pride was injured or not, but the hunt ended in failure. The pride still had to starve, and the water buffaloes saved their lives. Xiao Qishi hurriedly called everyone to leave. Not only did the lionesses of the pride have to take the risk, but he also had to take the road of gambling. Only the zebras dared to gather by the restless water. Although they did not have sharp horns, they were strong and strong. If the lions were kicked, they would definitely suffer internal injuries. The little lions were so hungry that they had no choice but to look at the zebras for the first time. The 15-month-old cubs had obvious changes in their figures, and their personalities had become calm. They became less and less fond of playing and frolicking. They started to hunt together. Perhaps they could not kill their prey, but they could participate in a beautiful cooperation. After the little lions broke up the small group of zebras, Xiao Qishi started his hunt. The camera captured the first cooperation of the little family. The little lions performed very well. The reward for their successful transformation was a fat zebra. The shore was too conspicuous. Xiao Qishi dragged the naked zebra to the side. The little brats did not need him to call out to them. They were all wolfing down the zebra. It was a very uncivilized scene. The sumptuous meal attracted other covetous eyes. It was 2 wandering lions. Lions with a pride would not wander around, and such wandering lions were the most dangerous. In the past 6 months, Xiao Qishi's mane was almost fully grown. He looked more mature, and his fighting ability was much higher than that of lions of the same age. They usually chose to avoid the hunt because they did not want to take risks. However, this zebra was the only food they had hunted in the past 2 days. It was impossible for them to give it up. It was not like there were no examples of lions fighting 1 against 5 on the grassland, let alone 2. It was time to let the cubs know that they could not only avoid the hunt on the grassland. Sometimes they had to fight when it was time. Seeing Xiao Qishi roaring and standing between the little lions and the wandering lions, full of fighting spirit, the cameramen were surprised. Kingo was finally angry. With blood still hanging from his mouth, he actually took the initiative to approach the 2 wandering lions. He had already won in terms of momentum, because he was fearless. The 2 wandering lions looked hesitant and a little scared, but in the end, they could not resist the temptation of food and decided to start the battle. Roar! The 3 young lions quickly tangled together. The situation of 1 against 2 looked quite intense. Under the intensification of fangs and roars, hair and dust billowed, and the surroundings were soon filled with blood. However, this was not Xiao Qishi's injury. Kingo, who had always been thought to be afraid of fighting lions, actually had quite skilled fighting experience. Even if he was fighting 1 against 2, he was not at a disadvantage. This time, he had refreshed everyone's impression of him. It could be said that it was unexpected. The 2 wandering lions finally ran away with their tails down. If they did not run away, they might die under the lion's fangs. After the video of Yolashanda fighting 1 against 2 was posted on the internet, the injustice of being King Go of the grassland was washed away overnight. Yolashanda is not King Go, he is the Lion King. Previously, he was worried that the cubs were not grown up yet, so he had no choice but to hide and be a lion with his tail between his legs. Now that the cubs have grown up, his days of enduring humiliation are coming to an end. Yolashanda, yes, the days of enduring humiliation are coming to an end. Every time I see them being robbed of food, I can only leave with my tail between my legs. I am waiting for the day when the children grow up. How can you be so dejected? Even if Yolashanda leaves, he leaves very valiantly. Okay? He knows in advance that there is danger approaching, and every time he leaves in a beautiful and orderly way. He will even take a piece of meat with him. If I were a lion cub, I would also be willing to live with Yolashanda. It doesn't matter if there is meat to eat or not. The main thing is that he is interesting. Xiao Qishi, on the other hand, had chased away the intruders, protected the food, and received the attention of the boys. She walked back calmly and did not even yell at the 2 losers who had fled in defeat. Why was he showing off? To attract more danger? He believed that there were some bears on the grassland that were naturally active, and they might fight with him because of his powerful roar. So he just ate the meat quietly. This zebra gave the cubs a full meal, which could last them at least 3 days. The cubs ate until their stomachs were full, and they gave up when they could not eat anymore. Territorial awareness and strong possessiveness gradually showed at their age. Even when they were full, they did not leave their prey. Instead, they continued to stay in place like demonstrators, slowly washing their faces and claws. Innocent and cute was no longer suitable to describe them. With their slender figures and mature brows, it seemed that it was more suitable to call them the reserve army of the marauders. With the silence after the battle, night would arrive, bringing some coolness to the land that had been roasted for the day. There was only a small piece of water left in the dry river pond. If it did not rain, many animals would not be able to hold on. In some places, the riverbed had already turned into mud. The hippopotamuses lingered there and rolled like mud monkeys, leaving only 2 eyes that could be seen. The crocodile could only be forced to become a terrestrial animal because it could not snatch the mud. The pride led by Xiao Qishi was fine. He always quickly found the next water source before it dried up. They maintained the rhythm of starving for 2 days after a meal. After another month or so, the first rain since the dry season finally came. The lions, who had not had the chance to bathe recently and were no longer clean, strolled in the rain and let the rain hit them. The fur of the already gray doe finally returned to its white color under the rain, although this was not necessarily a good thing. But who asked them to have parents who loved cleanliness? Whoever was dirty would be despised. The little lions could only obediently be drenched and let the rain wash them clean. To be honest, she didn't like to act coquettishly recently, but it was only because her body was dirty. There was no point in acting coquettishly, okay? If Xiao Qishi was willing to lick them, Xiao Qishi would lose. Of course not. He rolled around in the mud all day long. Whoever wanted to lick him could lick him. Thus, the torrential rainfall moistened the dry riverbed overnight. It could be predicted that not long after, the land would be restored to its former glory. The arduous dry season was finally over. In retrospect, it didn't seem to have been very difficult. This was the biggest emotion of the photographers and followers. Yolashanda and the 5 little lions of the Norman family finally grew up successfully. Chapter 55. In the eyes of the followers and photographers, it was not entirely true that the 6 Lions Alliance had passed this dry season without any danger. They knew better than anyone that a pride of cubs without any combat strength had to sneak between the few alliances and raise the cubs secretly. They simply needed the right time, place, and people. Therefore, Yolashanda's overall qualities were enough to rank in front of many famous lions. As he displayed his ability to quickly take control of the situation by fighting 1 against 2, people also began to look forward to this male lion, who was about to turn 4 years old, launching his conquest of the North and South. Other than raising children, he also had to marry a wife. In another year, Yolashanda would reach maturity. Invading the pride was his only choice. At that time, the cubs would be about 3 years old and would be able to fight the world with him. After the rainy season arrived, the ground was brand new. The pride, which was no longer restricted by a water source, was led by this lion that was more handsome and mighty than yesterday, and slowly walked north. This way, they could leave the battlefield of the few alliances and find a new territory to occupy. When the image of an adult and 5 children heading north was released, a group of old fans suddenly burst into tears. This was because Norman originated from the north. Later on, they had no choice but to give up their territory and were forced to the south again and again. Now, they were actually walking north. No. Yolashanda, don't go back to that sad place. There will be no luck in the land of the demons. Some intense voices sounded, rejecting Yolashanda from leading the cubs to the north, because there were too many corpses of the Norman family lions buried there. The 2 lion kings of the 1st generation, the 6 brothers of the 3rd generation, and the 3rd generation. There were more than 20 of them. They were all dead. Yolashanda, don't go back. The north has already been occupied by a few powerful prides. The competition there is even more intense. Believe me, staying in the south is the wisest choice. At least if they stayed in the south, they could still secretly grow up under the eyes of the few alliances. If they went to the north with their current combat strength, they could only be sacrificed. Countless voices begged Yolashanda not to bring the cubs back to the north, even if they were at their peak. Today, these old hardcore fans did not have any extravagant hopes of making a comeback. They only wanted peace. It would be good to watch the 4th generation grow up peacefully and then invade a smaller pride in this relatively comfortable corner of the South and reproduce a few healthy cubs with the lionesses. In the South, it was possible to survive even if one had to lie low. Wasn't Yolashanda the most proficient in this? Why do you have to wade in the North? There were too many powerful alliances gathered there, and battles were happening every day. Xiao Qishi, I'm just walking north. Look at how anxious you are. Actually, he didn't intend to go all the way north. He just wanted to move a little further north and find a place that wasn't big but was quiet enough to hide. He also knew that there were powerful prides in the past. As for how long they could stay here, it was up to the heavens. After the heavy rain, puddles of water accumulated on the ground. The lions lowered their heads to drink water. 1, 2, 3, 4 furry lion heads were reflected on the calm water surface. Lao San and Xiao Qishi did not participate in such a silly queue to drink water. The 2 of them walked to an even bigger puddle in front and faced each other with their butts, each occupying one side. The white lion raised its head and peeked at the male lion nearby while sticking out its pink tongue to lick off the water stain on its mouth. It was only when big Yuanzi nibbled on its tail of a different color that he interrupted its foolish behavior. "Doe, who usually did not reject provocations, narrowed its eyes and chose to ignore its brother. It, who was eye-catching and good-looking, walked with rather graceful steps to chase after its protector. When the white lion head rubbed against its neck, Xiao Qixi also rubbed back. At this moment, the white lion's blue eyes would emit a different kind of light. When the video was updated again, they had already settled down here for a week. It was an uneven wilderness and did not look good. Perhaps this was the reason why no lions occupied this place. Sorry, it was theirs from now on. All along, Xiao Qixi would teach the cubs to handle their feces and urine carefully. It was best to use their hind claws to dig a hole before scattering it. Now that they were here, of course, they had to continue handling it carefully. Otherwise, if they provoked the provocation of the nearby lions, they would have to move. After staying here for a week, the cubs began to realize that this was no longer a passerby, but a territory. They liked this feeling very much. Their favorite activity every day was to follow Xiao Qixi out to patrol and hunt together. After eating, they would stay and rest instead of wandering endlessly. Wandering lions refer to lions that did not have a territory. Now, they were a group of lions with a territory. After learning that Yolashanda had settled down in a nameless place with the cubs and did not keep heading north, everyone heaved a sigh of relief and felt very happy. It was great to have their own territory, although they knew that this was not a real territory. After all, in order to protect the cubs, Yolashanda did not dare to brazenly scatter his urine around to cover up his feces and urine. This action was filled with Yolashanda's care for the children. It was a move that went against one's instincts and made one's heart ache. The cubs did not mind that this place was rugged, nor did they mind that they could not leave their scent to declare their sovereignty. After all, they had been wandering since they were born. It was already good enough for them to have a stable residence. Who could say that this period of living was not the happiest period of their lives as lions? After the family of 6 settled down, they finally did not have to travel during the day and could finally get over their jet lag at night. For 3 consecutive days, Xiao Qixi led the cubs to sleep during the day and let them sleep until they could not sleep at night. On the 4th night, he happily led the 5 lively, stinky brats out to hunt. There were several reasons why lions were more suitable for hunting at night. One was that lions' eyesight was easier to use at night. They were monochromatic creatures and could only distinguish between light and dark. Too much light during the day could easily affect the lion's eyesight. Ordinary lions would only have sensitive eyesight when their prey was moving. Xiao Qixi was different. Not only was his eyesight sensitive, but his sense of smell was also very sensitive. Even if he was blindfolded, he could find the location of his prey. The lion's food was very cunning. After night fell, they would always lie motionless in the grass. This way, they could avoid disaster. As expected, the cubs were very confused when they came out. Their prey was clearly squatting in the grass nearby, but they could not sense it. Xiao Qixi did not intend to help them cheat. He hoped that the children would master more skills as soon as possible. There was no danger here. The 5 cubs gradually spread out and searched for prey in their own way. Xiao Qixi did not stop them. He was like a mountain protecting them nearby. Then he realized that the brats each had their own strange ideas. The Yuanzi and Chengfeng were very smart. They actually climbed to the top of the mountain and looked down at the whole grassland, trying to observe the movements that could not be seen on flat ground. Qing Shuang sniffed the wind in the air, hoping to find prey through the smell in the wind. But unless the prey was very close, this method was useless for ordinary lions. Purple lightning was nowhere to be seen, and lion was nowhere to be found. It was the same for doe. They were all boys with independent personalities. In the end, who would be the lucky one to find the location of their prey first? Xiao Qixi was thinking about this when he suddenly heard movement from the mountain. It was the sound of Big Brother and Second Brother. What was going on? After all, he loved his sons very much. He immediately rushed over. The mountain was not too high nor too low, and it was quite difficult to climb. Probably only the cubs had the leisure to climb up. Who would do such a thing for a 3- or 4-year-old lion? After climbing up with difficulty, Xiao Qixi quickly found out what had happened. The Yuanzi and Chengfeng had encountered an African cobra. The two ignorant children even tried to confront the cobra. Xiao Qixi broke out in a cold sweat. If the Yuanzi or Chengfeng were bitten by a cobra, he would have to experience the pain of losing a child at his prime. Both big brother and second brother were more cautious. When they saw him, they even clamored for him to uphold justice. What happened to not acting coquettishly when they grew up? Nonsense. Also, how could Xiao Qixi uphold justice? What else could he do other than retreat when he encountered Cobra? Did these two brats want him to fight the Cobra? Big brother and second brother. That's what we want, Daddy. What the hell? Xiao Qixi gave them a claw and chased them down the mountain. Only by looking for prey properly would one be successful. There is no point in doing these evil things. After Big Brother and Second Brother were chased down, they could only change their strategy and step into the grass. As the parent who chased them back on the right path, Xiao Qixi felt proud. This was the right way to be a father. This busy lion had just finished dealing with Big Brother and Second Brother when he heard Third Brother's voice. It was a voice that only came from a battle state. If one listened carefully, they would be nearby. Xiao Qixi did not have time to think and immediately ran over. Third Brother was indeed fighting. He had just discovered a black antelope in the grass. It was a smaller female and was very suitable for the little lions to practice with. However, black antelopes were not so easy to catch. The strength of their hind legs might not be a threat to adult lions, but that did not mean that cubs less than 2 years old could not be taken seriously. Purple Lightning, who was hunting alone for the first time, was a little careless. In the process, he was accidentally kicked in the abdomen by the black antelope. The situation was not serious and only made him cry out in pain. Xiao Qixi rushed to his side and heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that the cub was fine. The competitive child still looked reluctantly at the escaping black antelope and tried to chase after it. It was better not to. The lions could not catch up to the escaping black antelope in such a geographical environment. A sneak attack was a wise choice. Purple Lightning was pressed to the ground and stared at Xiao Qixi in a daze. However, struggling was useless. The other party took the opportunity to check the injured position on his abdomen. After being pressed by Xiao Qixi's mouth, Purple Lightning might have been in pain. In a hurry, he bit Xiao Qixi, but he only bit a mouthful of mane. Woo-woo. He seemed to be a little angry. Ah, what a troublesome child. If he had encountered a stronger water antelope, he would have lost his life. Xiao Qixi licked Purple Lightning, who had recovered half of his life, and was filled with comfort. After a while, Doe walked over with a black antelope cub in its mouth. Its nose was red, and it was panting heavily, as if it had just finished an intense hunting operation. Suddenly, its paws stopped in midair, and its blue eyes quietly watched the lion and its brother rolling and playing on the grass. Xiao Qixi finally let go of Purple Lightning when he smelled the scent of blood. When he saw Doe holding a black antelope cub in its mouth, he was instantly very surprised. Oh no, he was simply shocked. Doe had successfully hunted prey alone. Although it was a black antelope cub and only weighed about 10 kilograms, this was already very impressive. Xiao Qixi immediately walked towards Doe. This white lion's first reaction after hunting for food was to look for him. This was definitely his biggest surprise tonight. As the lion walked over, Doe lowered its head and put down its prey, licking the blood at the corner of its mouth. Did this mean that it wanted to share its food? It was good that Doe had such awareness, but how should he put it? Xiao Qixi did not want to teach them to share their food. To survive on this grassland, of course, the first thing to do was to take care of oneself, whether it was Doe or the other cubs. However, because he did not eat, Doe showed a puzzled look, which made Xiao Qixi feel a pang of heartache. After all, it was the first prey that Doe had hunted alone, and it was specially given as a gift to him. It really did not seem right not to accept it. All right. Xiao Qixi tore open the prey and ate half of it himself, and let Doe eat the other half. This seemed to be a decision that made Doe very happy, because it made a purring sound and even bent down to eat half of the food that Xiao Qishi gave it. The night was still very long, and Xiao Qishi continued to teach the lions to hunt for prey hiding in the grass. This continued until the second half of the night, when the cub's spirits were finally almost exhausted. Xiao Qishi then seriously caught 2 black antelopes for dinner. As Dou's performance tonight was worthy of praise, the elder rewarded Dou with one of the livers. The other was given to Purple Lightning, who had an injury in his abdomen, and he ate it. Dou seemed to stare at it a few times reluctantly. Of course, this was only Xiao Qishi's private interpretation. He knew that it loved to eat livers, but there was only one portion for each prey, and it was impossible to give it to it every time. That would seem too biased. In fact, Xiao Qishi was biased, and the white lion had received too much favoritism from him. Therefore, the other party also stuck to him. When the brothers no longer liked to act coquettishly, they returned to the nest to rest after eating and drinking their fill, but Dou was still very close to him, or simply lay under his fangs, and as soon as he lowered his head, he could lick himself in his unruly, sleeping position. Feelings were two-way. In the face of Dou's dependence, Xiao Qishi certainly would not be indifferent. At dawn, the lions slept very comfortably, and several snoring sounds rose and fell one after another. Among them, Xiao Qishi did not snore, and even a little disliked the habit of snoring. However, it was said that the snoring of felines could reduce the risk of heart disease. Forget it. For the sake of a healthy heart, he could reluctantly choose to endure it. Dou was also beaten, but not every day. Today, it might have been too tired and started snoring. Xiao Qishi could tolerate the cubs snoring nearby, but he could not tolerate the noise in his ears. If he wanted to beat it, he would have to wait until it fell asleep. Xiao Qishi pretended to inadvertently wake Dou up. The other party opened its eyes blankly and looked at him for a few seconds. Perhaps it realized that there was nothing wrong, and quickly fell asleep with its eyelids drooping. This time, it did not snore again. Xiao Qishi laughed slyly in his heart. He could not be blamed for this. Who asked Dou to lie by his mouth? His arm was numb from the other party's head, but as the saying went, this was a gift, and he could not appreciate it. He should be happy to have such a beautiful cat resting on his arm. During the day, Xiao Qishi checked third brother's abdomen. Fortunately, there were no wounds left, so it should be just an ordinary small problem. Purple Lightning was obviously used to the lion always pressing down on him and turning his belly over. If he could not resist, he would just pretend to be dead. This little lion was indeed competitive. After less than 2 days, the same thing almost happened again. Their father felt that this would not do. He should train the children to be united and cooperative. However, what gave Xiao Qishi a headache was that third brother and Dou seemed to be at odds. It was obviously difficult to get them to cooperate. There was no other way. Xiao Qishi could only let the children participate in hunting more in the future and nurture their habits of teamwork. For example, he could try to assign tasks and clearly hope that they would complete a certain segment. If they did well, they would be rewarded. He would start with the simplest training mission to train his patience, the patience of hiding in the grass for a long time to observe prey. Father Qiao led by example and taught all his skills to the little brats. Because the 5 children had always followed him to hunt, they always hid in the grass and waited when they were young. Their patience was very outstanding. Therefore, in this segment, all the cubs were rewarded. Are you happy? Delicious liver, heart, and father's hugs and kisses. Xiao Qishi shamelessly felt that his kisses and hugs were more attractive than liver. No matter what, that was it. During this rainy season, because their location might be too remote, no other lions came to invade them. This gave Lashanda a lot of time. It also gave the cubs a lot of time. Other than being born with outstanding genes, a lion would also be affected by nurture factors. For example, if a lion grew up in the League of Legends with sufficient food and a stable environment, as well as the love of a lion and lionesses, such a tall, rich, and handsome lion would definitely be a force to be reckoned with when he grew up. On the other hand, it was very difficult for a lion to become an outstanding lion without a stable environment and food from a young age. Xiao Qixi had tried her best to give the children a stable environment so that they could spend the most important period of their growth. He did it. He spent the entire rainy season teaching hunting, teaching unity, and working hard to increase the intimacy between the brothers. This was to prevent disputes over mating rights in the future. At the same time, he had to maintain his status. From time to time, he had to establish his prestige in the group to prevent these brats from taking advantage of him as they grew up. At present, the effect was still very obvious. No lion cub dared to challenge Xiao Qixi prestige. If there was, they would definitely roll around shamelessly and act coquettishly. If they dared to use their claws recklessly, they would be beaten to death. The videos that were updated during the period of time they lived in the territory contained more sugar than in the past. People wished that they could stay here forever and live a leisurely life with their relatives by their side and enough food and drink. But this was obviously impossible. When Lashanda was 5 years old, he would definitely invade the pride. The rainy season with abundant rainfall slowly passed away as the little lions practiced day after day. That evening, Xiao Qixi followed the scent of a group of water antelopes and brought the boys to a distant grassland. Cows and sheep could be seen in the grass where the wind blew. The dark weather was very suitable for a team to go out and harvest prey. The 5 subadult lions, who had been hungry for a day, walked aggressively all the way. Their fat and strong physiques amazed the photographer. If when they were young, a bunch of little fur balls walking together was cute, then now they were looking at all the prey on the grassland adorably. People knew that lions that grew up under no pressure developed their manes very quickly. The ones on the grassland with the least pressure and the most love were undoubtedly these 5 subadult lions that grew up with the lions. They were currently in their early 2s, but their manes were already thicker than when Xiao Qixi was 3 years old. Their fur was indeed a beautiful and smooth light yellow when they grew up, looking like satin under the sun. If he could touch it, it would definitely feel good. The comments under the recently updated video exploded. Some people said that it was because the Norman lion cub had good genes and was talented that he grew a mane so quickly. This was indeed one of the reasons, but more people admitted that Lashanda had raised them well. Everyone knew that Lashanda was a loving father and was extremely doting and gentle to the cubs. Be it in terms of food or spirit, he gave them what the other lions and lionesses on the grassland could not. It did not seem strange that the cubs were so handsome and mighty. After more than a year of transformation, the leading lion was now a lion at its peak. However, he was only 4 years old and was still far from his peak. The yellow lion at the back was also performing well. It had a slightly young temperament, and its eyes would occasionally flash with a lively light. Its round eyes were big and bright, and its eyelashes were long and curly. It was a nest of handsome men. The white lion was even better looking. His elegant white mane extended to his chest like a scarf, and he looked exceptionally gentlemanly. However, Do was definitely a formal hooligan. He walked to the left of Xiao Qixi and raised his chin in the wind. His blue eyes that swept past his prey flashed with a restless light. Realizing that Do was walking side by side with him, Xiao Qixi knew that this little brat wanted to be the main force. However, to be honest, he really did not like Do to be the main force because this fellow's fur was too difficult to clean. Furthermore, he had obsessive-compulsive disorder and could not stand being dirty anywhere. In the end, he was the one who had to work hard. Xiao Qixi mischievously used his strong body to block Do's path. However, Do narrowed its eyes at him and actually jumped over his back easily. What the heck? Was there any law? Was there any justice? Couldn't he take a detour if he wanted to? Why did he have to step over him? Xiao Qixi felt that his paternal authority had been severely challenged. This would not do. He chased after Do and wanted to teach it a lesson. However, Do seemed to have expected this. It actually ran all the way forward, unwilling to let Xiao Qixi get close to it. The senior and junior brothers following behind still maintained their own rhythm. They seemed to be used to this scene and did not find it strange. They were familiar with the skill of choosing prey to ambush. Everyone had their eyes on a water antelope. The four brothers spread out and approached the water antelope from various positions. This process was very quiet, and there was no communication. The reason why they could cooperate was that practice made perfect. However, unfortunately, this water antelope was especially vigilant and ran back to its group. Third brother licked his lips and quickly gave up on this target. In terms of speed, antelopes were not the best prey for lions. They should hunt slow prey like water buffaloes. Accompanying the risk was enough meat to feed a pride of lions. That was indeed the case. When a group of water buffaloes appeared in front of them, Xiao Qixi and Dou stopped fooling around. Their eyes lingered on this group of water buffaloes that were not many in number. Looking back, the four brothers had also followed. It seemed that their ambush of the water antelope had failed. Dou and its brothers met face to face, and after a brief moment of consideration, it took the lead to take a step forward and silently chose its own position. The subadult lions paused and soon spread out, each looking for a suitable position to hunt. Xiao Qixi watched this scene and did not stop them. It was true that water buffaloes were very dangerous, but they had to experience it sooner or later. They could survive, but they were all unyielding lions. Especially in this nest of lions that he had raised, none of them were cowards. However, he was also very worried. His heart was thumping in his chest. He wanted to go back on his word several times. Let's not do it anymore. Let's go catch the antelope. Perhaps this was his old father's mood. In the end, he held back. The photography team was also very surprised. Were they finally going to hunt water buffaloes? This was very dangerous. No. Their palms that were holding the camera were sweating. After following them for so long, their relationship was too deep. They really did not want to see a bad scene. And Yulishanda seemed to have decided. He had not stopped them. He doted on the children, but he had the courage to let go. Yulishanda, perhaps they should trust him. Dou's position was still the main force of the hunt. He was the vanguard and might suffer the most damage, but he seemed to be duty-bound. In order to help them, Xiao Qixi took on the role of cover. When the children were hunting, they tried their best to separate them from the water buffaloes. They believed that Dou knew very well how to drive the prey away from the group. Yes, Dou was very clear that the water buffalo had successfully fallen into its trap from the direction it had darted out from. In the end, this water buffalo that did not know where to go had been bitten on its buttocks. This was a relatively weak position, and also a very dangerous position. If there was only one lion, it was absolutely impossible to hang on the water buffalo's back safely. The strength of the water buffalo's hind legs was enough to shatter the lion's bones. Fortunately, this was a teamwork. The moment Dou succeeded, the second main force, Purple Lightning, darted out. His target was the water buffalo's neck. In fact, it was the eldest and the second eldest. The three lions hung on the water buffalo's back together. The fourth eldest, Blue Frost, took the role of cover. He tried his best to drive away the water buffaloes that wanted to come to the rescue and buy time for his brothers. His job was also very dangerous. He could easily be bitten by the water buffalo's horns. That was very fatal. The sharp water buffalo's horns were enough to cut open his stomach. Purple Lightning seemed to have executed Xiao Qixi move of tearing the prey's throat to the fullest. His success had determined the success or failure of this battle. Fresh blood flowed down under their immature fangs and claws. The rich smell of blood immediately spread in the air. This stimulated the power hidden in the bodies of the three young lions, causing their eyes to be even fiercer and their bites to be even more forceful. And the struggle of the prey stimulated their innate bloodthirst and fighting spirit. The water buffaloes were completely unable to fight against these three ferocious beasts that had come out of their cages. Its helpless wails were tragic and mournful and instantly spread throughout the grassland. Gradually, even if its herd wanted to save it, they were powerless. The African water buffaloes that weighed thousands of kilograms fell to the ground with a loud bang. This was the first huge trophy of the young lions. The subadult lions lay on the water buffalo's panting body and finally relaxed their fiery muscles. They were panting and enjoying the moment of victory. The water buffaloes confirmed that their companions were dead and no longer attempted to rescue them. They stayed far away from these ruthless lions. The author has something to say. It's coming. It's not just 20 coins. After all, everyone's nutrient solution is too awesome. 3. Chapter 56. Soon, all the water buffaloes nearby left. Only the birds on the grassland were circling at low altitude. They seemed to have been stimulated by the blood and wanted to have a share of the lion's leftovers. He did not know how much blood the water buffalo that had been knocked down by the little brats had lost. Xiao Qixi, who had returned from afar after completing his mission, smelled the smell of blood that soared into the sky. The smell of beef. After becoming a lion for so long, he had never eaten a water buffalo on the grassland. The last time he ate beef was when he ate beef one night as a human. He ate beef hot pot before going to the North Pole. The 5 lions, 1 white and 4 yellow, lay on the water buffalo's body and looked at him intently, as if they were saying, "Walk faster. I'm starving. It's time to eat. It's coming, it's coming." Xiao Qixi walked all the way and felt thousands of emotions in his heart. The cubs that he had picked up and raised more than a year ago had grown up. Now, they could hunt water buffaloes as a group. Amazing. In short, he was both proud and emotional. He walked over and first looked at the doe's fur. Indeed, it was so dirty that he could not bear to look at it. However, he did not say anything on a good day like today. Otherwise, he would definitely complain a lot. The 5 lions were panting heavily. The intense exercise just now had caused their body temperature to rise. At the same time, it had also stimulated their other side. Just like when a man drove a race car, his adrenaline would soar. Xiao Qixi was only doing support work. Under such an atmosphere, he felt the beast in his heart roar, let alone these 5 adolescent boys who were doing something big for the first time. They were probably not calm now. Indeed, when his gaze swept past their faces, the expressions and eyes of the brothers were still filled with murderous intent and sharpness that had not subsided. A bloody face looked quite terrifying. This was a beast. Roar. The lion let out a low sound from its throat. It was worlds apart from its tender voice when it was young. Now, it was a 3D stereo sound with an echo effect. It was a test of one's eardrums. However, in Xiao Qixi's ears, it was still no different from acting coquettishly. Xiao Qixi rubbed and licked each and every one of them. This nest of brave and fierce future warriors. The young lions, who were in a good mood, kept their claws on the water buffalo's body. The flexible leather was not so easy to cut open. They had no choice but to lower their heads and use their fangs to tear open the leather. This process was still not that easy. Xiao Qixi was speechless when she received the boys' pleading gazes. What's wrong? Even hunting water buffaloes was not a problem, but now that he had caught one, he could not bite it open. Although Xiao Qixi was speechless, he was very happy to be the first lion to eat the beef. To be honest, his fangs were indeed sharper and better. When he tore a hole in the leather, the lion brothers immediately came to help. The delicious taste of the beef was more popular than the overly smelly antelope mutton and the old and dry wildebeest meat. The 6 lions ate with relish. This time, they didn't have to worry about the prairie bandits stealing their prey. Be it hyenas or other prides, as long as they dared to come, they would not be able to return. It was time to split the livers again. There was a lot of delicious beef liver and beef heart. Under Xiao Qixi's justice, every lion cub was given a share as a reward for their hard work today. The photographer noticed that the biased Yolashanda had given her share of beef liver to White Lion. This had happened many times. Perhaps it was because Yolashanda did not like to eat liver. But why did she only give it to White Lion? This was a good question. When White Lion was young, he was thinner and weaker. Perhaps Yolashanda is used to taking care of White Lion more. They defended Yolashanda. But White Lion is already very strong now. His combat strength and leadership are both very strong. Similarly, the other lions were the same. They were no longer children who needed to be pampered. They hoped that Yolashanda would realize this earlier and carefully decide on the future direction. The so-called future direction that they were talking about was the alliance between the lions. When the video of the 6 lions successfully hunting water buffaloes was posted on the internet, people were amazed that the 4th generation of brothers had become so outstanding. At the same time, they began to discuss their future intensely. This was a turning point that they would have to face sooner or later. Now, it was right in front of them. When they were young, I was worried day and night that they would not grow up. Now that they have grown up, I am worried about the alliance. Logically speaking, the 4th generation has grown up very well. They have grown manies at the age of 2. Old fans, don't say anything about their genes being excellent. This is all thanks to Yolashanda. Without Yolashanda, no matter how excellent their genes are, there is still a pile of bones. He is too awesome. I really have no reason to be on tenterhooks anymore. But I still think greedily, don't separate and continue to be together. Some comments should not be fanned. Those old fans said that it was not Yolashanda's credit. Now, everyone is worshiping him as their father, okay? A 2-year-old lion is already at the age of being expelled from the pride. I wonder what Yolashanda is thinking. God bless. Please don't leave this house to find a wife. The little lions still need you. The teamwork is really great. Watching it makes my blood boil. Also, I hope that Yolashanda will not leave. Even if the little lions have grown up, you are still their backbone. Please. It was not hard to see that while people were gratified that the 4th generation was already able to take charge, they were also very afraid that Yolashanda would leave. Yolashanda, who had already reached the age of reproduction, would very likely abandon these 5 young lions who had the ability to survive and look for a world that belonged to him. They did not want that. Due to the overwhelming number of uneasy comments, the officials released a second video. In the video, the 6 lions had eaten their fill and were enjoying the coolness of the evening. Beside them was the water buffalo that had not finished eating. This was the benefit of hunting water buffaloes. If they succeeded, they could eat 3 or 4 meals, chow chi. No, I won't eat meat if it's spoiled. That's how willful I am. There was still so much food, so the lions had to spend the night here. Satisfied, they lay down not far from each other. So were cleaning their fur, and so were rubbing their bodies on the ground. It was a rare leisurely time. The camera turned to the most handsome and mighty lion in the family and the white lion. Oh, Yolashanda was licking the white lion's blood-stained fur. As he licked, he looked very disgusted. Of course, he was disgusted. White fur was really too difficult to take care of, but leaving it alone was very uncomfortable. Xiao Qi did not want a sloppy person in his pride to affect his mood. I'm dying of laughter. The white lion's fur gets dirty too easily. As everyone knows, Yolashanda is a clean freak. Ha ha! The 6 Lions Alliance is the most hygienic alliance on the grassland. Everyone is handsome. He is so affectionate and doted on. He will not leave. I bet a card of cucumbers that Yolashanda will not leave this house for the white lion. That depends on who is more important in Yolashanda's heart, the lioness or the white lion. That's not how it is. Brothers, have you all forgotten about the Knights Alliance? The 5th brother left with the 4th brother because they were the closest. I guess even if Yolashanda were to leave, he would bring the white lion with him. The Knights Alliance was split into 2 because of the unfairness of the mating rights. The 6 Lions Alliance is not facing these problems yet. Yolashanda should still be with the 4th generation for some time. Don't just say that he kissed the white lion. Are you all blind? He treats all of them well. Which one of them can grow up without his love? I'm also angry when I see some people mocking them. They are a harmonious family, but they make it sound like everyone has their own agendas. What bad intentions can a big cat have? Don't be angry. Don't be angry. Compare to them. They're all good and mean no harm. Indeed, Xiao Qi treated all of them well. As for saving a little of his heart for dough, that was his little bias. He felt that he was not overdoing it. Guarding their prey overnight was a very dangerous thing. If they had not grown up, they would not have dared to do it even in their dreams. The smell of blood attracted the attention of flying insects and birds. This was a small problem that the lions did not care about. What they were really wary of was the hyenas that were everywhere. After hearing the commotion, Lao San, who was lying on the grass, immediately propped up his upper body. His eyes glowed in the night. Because the hyenas came from his direction, he was now a sentinel. The other lions were still resting and did not react. Xiao Qishi could not stand the smell of blood. He lay the furthest away, while Do was beside him. It seemed to be tired from the afternoon's intense exercise and was currently snoring. The hyenas were indeed here. Xiao Qishi kicked Do and told this main force to get up and work quickly to chase the hyenas away. How should he put it? He raised a child for 1,000 days for one day. In the past, he had always been the one to work hard. Now, it was his turn to enjoy, all right? Do quivered and looked around with shining eyes. In the end, it fixed its gaze on Xiao Qishi. This expert bull hunter with a growl in his throat leaned over and rubbed Xiao Qishi's head. The current situation was not the time to enjoy the joy of family. If there were many hyenas, even Xiao Qishi could not stand by and do nothing. To be honest, there was no need to fight with the hyenas for the rest of the food. However, the dignity in lion's bones did not allow them to compromise with the hyenas. Even if Xiao Qishi was willing, the five brothers would not understand. Xiao Qishi had no intention of forcing his idea that lying low is also a form of victory on the young cubs. Young people should stand up. There were not many hyenas attacking at night. There were about 13 to 14 of them. It was a medium-sized hyena pack, and the 6 lions were more than enough to fight them. After confirming that an enemy had invaded, the 6 lions walked out of their nest with strong steps. The rising and falling low roars let the photographers know that this battle to protect food and show their strength was inevitable. Unfortunately, the lights were not clear enough, and they could not take a clear video. They only saw Yelishanda and the white lion walking at the front. The 2 lions running side by side were like the trump cards of this pride. Their existence made people feel at ease for no reason. Third brother led the 3 brothers and rushed in front. The sneaky hyenas had yet to prepare for a sneak attack when they welcomed the anger of the lions who had been disturbed from their dreams. With Yelishanda and his brothers bolstering their courage, every lion was full of confidence. They did not show any fear at all as they bared their fangs and sharp claws in front of this group of hyenas that they had once feared and avoided. There was also a deafening roar. The moment Xiao Qishi and Do were in place, both sides opened fire. 6 lions against 14 hyenas. The ideal distribution was for each lion to deal with 2 to 3 hyenas. However, the hyenas were very cunning and ruthless. They knew how to focus fire on one of them. However, in the face of absolute strength, no matter how cunning they were, it was useless. The other lions would not stand by and do nothing, since the hyenas dared to show the weakness behind them. How could the lions show mercy to them? Hearing the hyenas' shrill cries in front, the photographer felt that these lions were crazy. Actually, the moment they fought, the hyena leader should have known that they were no match for the pride. This time, they had walked too much at night and encountered ghosts. After poking the lion's den, the leader did not hesitate to summon his team to escape. Even so, they were still chased by the lions for a while, and the process was very embarrassing. Of course, Xiao Qishi did not do such a thing. He wanted to go back to sleep. And who knew if the hyenas were trying to lure the tiger away from the mountain? He wanted to go back to see the water buffaloes. Do did not go either. There were 2 reasons. First, it was Old Third who led the team to chase the hyenas. They did not get along, so even if it was interesting, they would not go. Second, Xiao Qishi did not go. Xiao Qishi stifled a laugh. At the same time, he was at his wit's end. He was not going to get involved with the 2 of you. The main reason was that he knew that although Old Third and Do did not get along, they did not have any ill intentions. The relationship between the 2 cubs was probably just that of an ace against an ace. They both had their own personalities. However, it was probably impossible for them to stay in the same pride in the future. If Do and Purple Lightning occupied the same pride at the same time, it would be a waste of their talents. As a father, Xiao Qishi felt that the most ideal distribution was for Do and Old Fourth to form an alliance with Xuan. Their personalities complemented each other. Together, Old Third, Old Second, and Old Third could form a strong iron triangle. As for Qiao Qishi himself, he would look for Ao Daisai after raising the baby. In short, he would go out more often and try his luck. He would leave the rest to fate. But now was not the time. They would go their separate ways 2 years later. The followers waited anxiously for more than 2 months and found that Yalashanda and the 5 brothers were still together and did not seem to have any intention of leaving. Based on his keen intuition, Qiao Qishi still brought the pride back to the south this time. The appearance of this considerable force attracted the attention of several pride alliances in the south. But fortunately, these 6 fat and strong lions did not have any intention of invading the pride. They only occasionally occupied the water source, and most of the time, they just lay in the shade of the trees or hung on the trees to cool off. The ground was scorched by the sun, and the heat made the lions very uncomfortable. The lions who knew how to climb trees would hang on the trees and enjoy the comfort of the cool breeze before sunset. On this strangely shaped tree, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a total of 6 lions. Fortunately, the tree was big enough to accommodate their willful thoughts of enjoying the shade together. The lonely tree next door was actually not far away, but for some reason, it did not receive the favor of any lion. The mischievous big UNZ was hanging the highest. Old Fourth was about the same as him, and their tails were still fighting in the air. As for Old Second, he did not seem to care about the height. He just lay on a branch half a meter above the ground. The important thing was to participate. Old Third was not hanging high, mainly because he was so far away from them. Qiao Qishi turned around and looked at Do lying behind his butt. He thought to himself, if the branch breaks and I fall, you'll be finished. Big tree, I hate lions, I hate them. Fires were always easy to break out on the grassland during the dry season. The lions, who were hanging high and could see far away, saw the distant fire line and were curious about what had happened. Qiao Qishi cursed in his heart. There was a fire. He reacted quickly and immediately left with the lions. This action let the lions know that it was a very terrifying thing and that they needed to escape. However, the fire did not burn for long. It was a good thing that humans extinguished it. Otherwise, many animals would have been displaced. In the past, when human technology could not reach the conditions to put out fires, they could only let the fires burn in the wild. Animals were the most pitiful. Every year, countless people died or were injured because of wildfires. Of course, there were still countries in the world that did not have the conditions to put out fires. When the forest on their land caught fire, they could only watch helplessly. The grassland was mainly on fire because the weather was dry. The sunlight in a leaf with a wormhole could create an opportunity for a fire. The fire forced the animals that were resting there to leave their territory and come over. The originally small place became even more crowded. Among them, there was no lack of young lions with ashen faces. They were chased out by the pride when food was the most scarce and became wanderers on this land. When they met the 6 Lions Alliance, which was also a wanderer, they might be fearful and yearning, especially the handsome lion in the lead. He was simply a dream ally. Many wandering lions liked him at first glance because he was full of strength. However, the other party's team seemed to be very harmonious, and there was no possibility of joining. If they rashly left the group to make contact, it would be very difficult to return to the group. No lion wanted to take this risk. Therefore, they could only watch. As the local snakes, they found a new tree to hang on. Looking at the unfamiliar lion passing by in the distance, the lions of the Norman family looked indifferent. Qiao Qishi, on the other hand, was rather interested. This was a wild lion, a synonym for Africa. It was worth admiring. The Norman brothers. Can't you see enough of us? Qiao Qishi estimated that the lions were more than 3 years old. They were a little younger than him, but they did not look as mighty as him. Perhaps this was the difference between lions. Roar! Do's roar suddenly sounded. Qiao Qishi did not expect it. However, this was normal. Lions had a strong sense of territory. When they saw competitors pass by their door, of course, it was impossible for them to not do anything. Because of his roar, the other brothers also roared, as if they were about to go down and kill. The wandering lions had no fighting spirit. They had been hungry for a few days. Now, the most important thing was to find food to fill their stomachs. Xiao Qixi tensed up. He was not sure if the 5 lions he raised had bloodthirsty genes. If the boys wanted to go down and fight, he should stop them. Lions were loyal and tenacious, but they could also have a big change in temperament at any time. They could turn against their kin and kill the closest existence to them. There was a chance of this. He needed to keep a clear mind to remind himself of this matter. Although Xiao Qixi really loved the lions he raised, he knew that the lions loved him too. The Norman brothers did not go down to chase the wandering lions because Xiao Qixi did not say anything. At present, the leader of the whole team was still their protector. Although their combined strength had surpassed the other party, no one had such rebellious thoughts. If a trump card could get along peacefully with another trump card, then there must be a bigger trump card on top of their heads. After night fell, the hot temperature that made the lions open their mouths and breathe finally dropped. They came down from the tree and strolled on the grassland at dusk one by one. This scene was very beautiful and would make people feel very comfortable. Family, unity, warmth, and affection. No matter what the future direction was, at least they would not be lonely. After the fire, the place became even more smoky. Groups of herbivores were rushed into a mess by the new wandering lion alliance. This made hunting more difficult. The wandering lions fought when they were full, and their roars were very noisy. The alliance, which was originally entrenched here, also intervened. This time, it was not as simple as annoyance, but an indiscriminate attack. Therefore, Xiao Qixi made a decision. He was going to give up this barren place and walk north. Perhaps there were many opportunities, vitality, and Aodicei. After passing through the place where they lived during the rainy season, the little lions felt the joy of returning home. They lingered here for 2 days before leaving. The photographer who followed them thought that they were just going home. 2 days later, Yolashanda and the Norman brothers still did not stop moving north. This was a piece of news that made people sigh with emotion. Recovering the lost land was a dream. They had never thought of realizing this dream, but the dream was always there. The dream was always there. The author has something to say. Lions fight all their lives and rarely have good endings. However, they have Yolashanda. They are Yolashanda's treasures. Today, I'm going to promote a novel by my gay friend, Su Shuang, _carrot. The Whole Universe is My Fan by Crystal Jade Meat. It's currently being serialized. Don't miss out on it. If you're interested, you can search for the title or ID 344-1188. The text was as follows. Yin Sheng passed through. A poor teenager who passed through the interstellar world. No education. No specialty. It was not easy to find a garbage sorting job, but he could not support himself. Uneasily, he signed up for the interstellar food competition. Trembling with fear, he made egg fried rice, tomato, scrambled eggs, scallion pancakes. At this time, interstellar archaeologists, gourmets, nutritionists, and aristocrats slowly gathered in front of the interstellar holographic screen. They were all excited. Ah, this is ancient Earth's food. It's too fragrant. Little brother, are you a genius? It's too delicious. Little brother is mine. Ah, little brother, I love you. Yin Sheng, who did not know anything, thought, I have to advance today. If I advance, I can freeload 2 lunches from the program crew. Summary. Everyone else is competing. I'm the only one who's messing around. Chapter 57. The fire in the south was like fate. Mixed with other factors, it directly pushed Xiao Qixi north. Their footsteps were not urgent. They did not have the hostility of invading anyone's territory. If one had to describe it, it was more like a family of 6 coming on a self-guided trip. It could be considered a graduation trip. Since the children, who had always lived under the wings of their parents, already had the conditions to fight, they should go out and see the world. Not only did they train their hunting abilities, but they also had the ability to face all sorts of unexpected situations in the natural world. These 6 lions that explored the world walked and stopped. Occasionally, they would see a grassland with plenty of prey and stop to stay for 2 days before leaving. This was quite beneficial for their team's cooperation. Among them, Xiao Qixi did not participate in hunting. Oh, after working hard and sneaking around, he finally raised his cubs. Once he took off the burden of being the hope of the family, Xiao Qixi felt relaxed. He wished he could run 2 laps around the African grassland to express his excitement. Now, he finally knew why people in the past had so many children. If there were not 7 or 8, there were at least 5 or 6. It was because children were ready-made labor when they grew up. When the 5 brothers went out to hunt, Xiao Qixi slowly followed behind them. If he was in the mood, he would help cover. If he was not in the mood, he would find a strong tree branch to lie on and point in his heart. Boss's wave was too fast. The zebra was clearly still vigilant. Furthermore, this zebra was not an ideal hunting target. Wait, who chose this prey? What happened to all the learning that he had done in the past? Zebras with cubs were very vigilant. Furthermore, it was quite a sin to kill both mother and son in one pot. Unless they had no choice, they should not choose a mother and son with cubs as prey. Now that the zebra mother and son had successfully escaped, it meant that their meal was delayed by at least an hour or even longer. However, Xiao Qixi did not find it a pity at all. He even gloated. "You've hit a soft nail, brats." Watching their prey run away, the brothers stared blankly and frustratedly at the zebra's retreating figure for a while. They could only look for their next hunting target. Lions would also have conflicts and temper tantrums. Big Unz, who was too impulsive and scared away its prey, was roared at by every little brother that passed by. The lion was almost dumbfounded. However, he was thick-skinned and still looked very cheerful. He wagged his tail and followed his younger brothers. "Xiao Qixi, you really might have." The brat's new hunting target was still the zebra. With their huge appetites, they rarely hunted small prey recently. Firstly, they didn't have enough to eat, and secondly, the lions didn't like them. Prey below 800 kilograms was no longer within the scope of consideration of the Norman brothers. He was just that arrogant. This time, Xiao Qixi was no longer dozing off. He perked himself up and watched attentively. He realized that Do was the one who chose the hunting targets, so the previous incident was definitely not Do's masterpiece. Although this fellow was very strong, he was not arrogant and did not stand out for everything. Do's character was more inclined towards concealment. How should he put it? Perhaps what he had shown was just the tip of the iceberg. Xiao Qixi felt that even if he had personally raised Do, there was still no way to accurately summarize what kind of lion Do was. The hunt this time was very successful. Dinner could be served in less than an hour. The lion brothers pressed an adult male zebra to the ground. They used their barbed tongues to greedily lick the warm blood that flowed out of the zebra's body. At the same time, they let out low growls of enjoyment from their throats. Subwoofer multiplied by 5. It was sexy, but also mysterious and dangerous. After a moment, this group of fierce lions raised their heads and roared at another lion on the tree branch. In Xiao Qixi's ears, it was, "Stop sleeping, come down and eat. Lazy bum, what are you doing?" It was not easy to become the legendary king of soft rice. Of course, he should enjoy the 16 hours of sleep that a lion should have. But he was really hungry. It seemed that eating for free was easier to digest. Xiao Qixi slowly came down from the tree branch. It was easy to climb up a tree, but difficult to get down. Generally, pandas could easily climb up a tree, but not down a tree. They would either fall directly or fall down when the tree branch broke. Xiao Qixi was considered okay. After he came down, he stretched his back and shook the mane on his head. His mane was thick and neat, and was beautifully taken care of. It was unlike some of the sloppy lions on the grassland. Some of their hairstyles looked like weeds, some looked like punks, and some were bald at a young age. People all over the world who paid attention to African lions recognized that Yelashanda was a very handsome lion. At present, there was no lion cleaner and better looking than him. After thinking about it, people felt that the 5 Norman brothers, who had been personally raised by Yolashanda, had good potential. They might be able to compete with their guardian when they reached adulthood. Xiaoqishi came between the 5 brothers and bumped the 5 lion heads one by one. Then, he lay down and ate heartily. The meat of zebra meat was not as refreshing as beef, but it was still very delicious. He was very happy to eat this free meal. When the latest video was released, no one accused Yolashanda of being a freeloader. On the contrary, people were happy for him. This was a happy event that was worth celebrating. It was just that his nose was not as sharp as Xiaoqishi's and could not smell that there were 6 lions. Otherwise, he might not have come alone. The cameraman who was following them was also quite confused. In this situation, they did not know if a fight would break out. They were very worried. Evan, who was guarding the territory, did not move. Xiaoqishi did not move either. The 5 strong adult lions did not move either. They were only waiting for the leader's orders. If Xiaoqishi showed any fighting spirit, they would swarm forward without hesitation. Xiaoqishi was thinking. He knew that the 5 brothers would have to fight other lions sooner or later. Instead of encountering more lions and fighting in a hurry, it was better to take advantage of this lone lion to practice. Once this thought appeared in his mind, it was very difficult to dispel it. Xiaoqishi glanced at the lions beside her who had already dug their claws into the grass. Every pair of eyes was ready to strike. That's great. They're not afraid. Let's F***king fight then. Wait, let him confirm if this lion was the only one within a 2-kilometer radius. The answer was yes. The moment he got the answer, Xiaoqishi's fighting spirit surged. The low growl in the depths of his throat could only be heard by the 5 brothers beside him. Almost the moment they sensed that Xiaoqishi wanted to kill that lion, the 5 brothers beside him instantly straightened up. In particular, Doe and Purple Lightning, who were standing on Xiaoqishi's left and right, had already let out provocative roars and charged at the lion guarding the territory. Evan looked a little dumbfounded. He only moved a little, and the 6 lions opposite him immediately charged at him. Xiaoqishi rushed at the back to observe the battle situation. The 2 leading main forces were still Doe and Purple Lightning. They were so brave that they did not look like lions who were fighting for the first time. When the few lions rolled into a ball, the battlefield beneath their feet stirred up sand and dust, making the whole battle look even more intense and tense. The cameraman from both sides did not expect that this young pride would really dare to gang up on Evan. However, Evan was indeed in a precarious situation when it was 1 against 5. He might even die in this battle. Xiaoqishi dared to let the 5 brothers fight because he had the confidence. As long as they came back with light injuries, he could afford to take care of them. If they could come back with serious injuries in a 1 against 5 battle, then they would be too weak. This grassland was not suitable for them to live in. Roar. Yolashanda supported them from the back. His roar was embellished. The powerful roar was the backbone of the 5 brothers. They became braver as they fought. They would never back down. Even when facing a lion stronger than them, they were so fierce that it made the onlookers' hair stand on end. A nest of sweet little angels raised by the sweet Yolashanda? No, they were clearly fierce beasts with sharp fangs and claws. In a 1 against 5 situation, Evan relied on his rich battle experience to barely hold on. However, he knew that he had no chance of winning. The roar coming from his throat was already strong in appearance, but weak in reality. In the center of the territory, Evan's brothers heard the commotion from 5 kilometers away and immediately got up to help. 5 kilometers was only a matter of minutes for a lion's speed. They came very quickly. Xiaoqishi smelled other lions approaching in the wind and calculated the time to call for a retreat. The lion was injured, but not too seriously. When he returned, his brothers would take care of him. While they were on tenterhooks, the cameraman realized that the 5 brothers had decided to retreat. They let go of Evan, who was at the end of his rope, and returned to Yolashanda's side while licking their fangs. Yolashanda left with them without hesitation. Until the end of this scene, people still could not recover from their shock. Next, Evan's two brothers arrived at the scene. At this moment, the invaders had already left, leaving only the injured Evan. The stammering cameraman finally found the ability to speak, but they did not know what to say. They could only say that they were too strong. Yolashanda and the five Norman brothers. They had challenged one of the lions of the Veteran Alliance and left unscathed. This was a shocking ending that no one had expected. Xiao Qishi brought the brats and walked 5 kilometers in one go. They only stopped when they were sure that there were no pursuers behind them. The lions, who were already quite tired from fighting just now, immediately laid down to rest. They looked very tired, but every pair of eyes seemed to be filled with excitement. They could even knock down another lion. Xiao Qishi was not panting badly. He started to check these big babies one by one. Were they injured? The young lions that he had touched all consciously flipped their bellies to let him see enough. Doe, who was used to acting obedient, even performed an automatic flip. Its entire body was 360 degrees for Xiao Qishi to see enough. In the end, Xiao Qishi focused his gaze on Doe's bloody mouth. He was not sure if Doe's mouth was injured. He could only lick it with his tongue. Then, he was glad to discover that it was not Doe's blood. Doe's mouth was not injured, and its fangs were still so sharp and white. Third brother's mouth was also bleeding. When Xiao Qishi checked him, he was clearly very awkward. There were a few times when his fangs almost knocked against the tip of Xiao Qishi's tongue. He only became obedient after Xiao Qishi bit his ear and roared at him. In the blink of an eye, the image of a brave warrior was completely gone. After confirming that third brother was not injured, everyone was safe. Oh, they were not unscathed. The UNZ was slightly injured, the kind that would heal in a few days. However, as a glorious injured person, he was still treated well by his family. He did not need to participate in the hunt anymore. He could lie on the tree branch happily with Xiao Qishi. Even if he ate, he would not be yelled at by his brothers. The UNZ narrowed his eyes and licked his claws. Happy brother. Xiao Qishi, who was next door, only wanted to hold his ear and repeat the situation to his boss. He should not have been injured, but he was injured. Explain? The UNZ. Although that was what he said, Xiao Qishi was already very satisfied with them. The children were unexpectedly fierce. Even he felt his scalp tingle when he saw that scene. As expected of a lion. Natural warriors. The video of the Norman brothers ganging up on Evan was quickly updated, bringing with it a shocking piece of news. The 5 subadult lions that had just grown up had joined forces to injure Evan, who was in his prime. Then, they left before the other brothers arrived. Norman supporters felt really good watching it. No one expected that the 4th generation would be so fierce in their first fight with lions, and they actually won. The other party was the powerful Golden Knights Alliance. Not long ago, they had even killed 2 lions. It could only be said that Yolashanda's operation was really impressive. Anyone could tell that he was the backbone of this battle. He could control everything freely, and everything was just right. Although the lions led by Yolashanda are fierce, they are not bloodthirsty. Otherwise, they would have had a chance to kill Evan. It would be a pity to leave a hidden danger behind, but it is worthy of respect. Everyone who followed him from the beginning knew that Yolashanda was a righteous lion. He had always been balancing himself and the environment. He did not seem to want to bully other lions, but he would never allow other lions to bully him. The analysis above is completely correct. I think so too. Haha. As expected of the Lion King Hardy's child. He has made Hardy proud. The other brothers seem to be mediocre. Yolashanda's charisma is outstanding. No wonder so many lions want to form an alliance with him. It's mainly because of his charisma. Oh, the most handsome man on the grassland. I'm starting to look forward to his descendants. This was still the periphery of the Golden Knights Alliance's territory. However, with Evan injured, this pride should not provoke this demon-like wandering team for the time being. The 6 Lions Alliance hunted to their heart's content in other people's territory and continued to head north. However, Xiao Qishi actually wanted to meet the other 2 lions. Although she already knew from the smell that there was a high chance that they were not Ao Daisai. Aodicei's smell was not so strong. Aodicei was very hygienic. Almost as soon as Evan recovered from his injuries, the 6 lions walked out of the other party's attack range. However, they could not let go of the grudge they had with the Golden Knights Alliance. Lions were very vengeful creatures. In the middle of February, the 6 lions stepped into the war-torn zone in the north. New alliances often changed here, and they fought with at least 3 alliances. They did not lose a single battle, because the other alliances only had 2 to 4 lions guarding them. They did not have the advantage in numbers. However, the 6 of them were too aggressive. On the grassland, the power of unity was undoubtedly invincible. The tug-of-war lasted until March. In the last month of the rainy season, the Pride led by Yolashanda occupied the war-torn zone and became the new owner. The lions of the other alliances had either escaped with injuries or were still lingering at the edge, waiting for an opportunity. The lionesses and cubs were only chased away. Without being chased by these invading lions, they followed their lions and left their original territory. This was a blessing in disguise. Yolashanda's action of not killing the cubs was shocking. If he did not kill the cubs, he would not be able to occupy the lioness's resources and would not be able to give birth to his own offspring. Or perhaps it was because he had barely turned 5 years old and did not have any needs in terms of reproduction. However, there was no hurry. Yolashanda was so strong and handsome. He could not lack a wife. Now that they had occupied a rather fertile territory, the prey within the range was enough for them to live a rich life. The frequent fights during this period made the 5 brothers look more mature and dignified. The main thing was that their manes were standing on end and they looked very valiant. When they lay on the grass and faced the wind with their heads raised, Xiao Qixi could not help but sigh in her heart. My children are so handsome. Ah, so handsome. However, although they were very good at fighting, they were still babies in their hearts. They listened to everything he said and had to follow him when patrolling. In such a large territory, it was best for 3 lions to patrol in a group. Even if the 3 lions encountered an invasion, they would not be at a disadvantage. However, it was not easy to distribute them. Every lion wanted to follow him. Even if Lao San was willing to lead another team, no lion was willing to go over to make up the numbers. Sigh, he was very helpless. Therefore, the family could only be neat and tidy. Every time they went out, they would be mighty. Sometimes they would form a long dragon formation, and sometimes they would form a triangular charging formation. In very rare cases, they would walk side by side, and neither would give in to the other. The camera always captured the neat family traveling. Such a beautiful scene always made people worry that they would fall apart because of disputes one day. Of course, it still looked sticky at the moment. The Lion brothers had different faces when they fought, and they had different faces in their family life. Sunset was the best time to patrol. Xiao Qixi walked lazily in front, and his cubs followed lazily behind. Suddenly, he felt that a bastard had picked up his tail. He was too lazy to turn back to see who it was. It was definitely Do who would do this. If it was not Do, this fellow would definitely be beaten to death by Do. The white lion is already so old and still acting spoiled. The cameraman did not know whether to laugh or cry. He could not imagine that the white lion in the battle was the same as the white lion in front of him. Yolashanda intends to lead them to conquer the world. It looks like they will not be separated. Someone analyzed. In the past 2 months, 99% of the voices in the video said the same thing. They were very happy that Yolashanda had made this exciting decision. What was even happier was that they were extremely ferocious and excited to the point of shouting God. One battle video after another made people's scalps tingle. They could not help but shout in front of the computer. Recovering the lost land did not seem to be a dream anymore. It was very likely to be realized. The previous conservative hardcore fans, please, as long as it's safe. The current conservative hardcore fans, charge for me. Charge. Recover the lost land. Charge, motherfucker. The territory that was occupied by the Norman twin lions was occupied by the Northern Alliance during the 3rd generation. It was only 4 or 5 years ago, and the territory had not changed owners since then. The three lions wanted to bite the cubs to death and occupy the lionesses, but the lionesses refused to compromise in order to protect their children. Their sacrifice gave them a glimmer of hope. 2 years later, the young lions who had grown up returned to this land filled with blood and tears as if it was fate. I wonder if they feel even the slightest bit familiar with this place? Of course, Xiao Qixi did not know about this. Otherwise, he would feel even more heartache if he knew what had happened to his cubs. The territory that needed to be patrolled was a little big. Xiao Qixi wanted to slack off. If he had known, he would not have occupied such a large territory. They did not find it crowded when they lived in such a small territory. Speaking of which, Xiao Qixi really wanted to complain. These brats must have been used to a hard life since they were young, so they did not know how to enjoy themselves when they had a large territory. For example, they had 2 big trees to lie on, but they insisted on lying on one. It was not easy to find such a strong tree on the grassland. Their territory was so big, but they had to squeeze together. Where was the layout? Just ask about the layout. Similar things had happened so many times that Xiao Qixi was too lazy to complain. No, I'm really tired. He found a random spot on the side of the road and lay down to catch his breath. The other lions looked at him and stopped in confusion. Then, the road was filled with lions. The motorcade that was following them was 5 meters away, and they shone a special light beside them. On this night, with good weather, they enjoyed the loving and interesting family life of these lions. The author has something to say. The 6 lions are of one heart, so there is no need to worry about them turning against each other. Internal strife is one thing, but if an enemy invades, they will be killed without mercy. Chapter 58. He realized that when he stopped to rest, the little brats also stopped to rest. This was too despicable. If you don't patrol, I don't patrol. How can the territory be stable? Xiao Qixi roared angrily at the lions who were sprawled all over the road. His tone was long and carried a strong sense of parental reprimand. When translated, it roughly meant, "What are you doing? Get up and patrol? Why are you lying down at such a young age? Is this the time for you to enjoy life? Hurry up and patrol for me." Under Xiao Qixi's incessant bombardment, the lions seemed to have magically understood his meaning. For a moment, the brothers looked at each other. Because of this mutual pushing the blame exchange, they were yelled at by Xiao Qixi again. This was especially so for Do, who was the closest to her. Xiao Qixi was practically yelling at him, causing him to back off in fear. He hurriedly stood up with an aggrieved expression. However, due to Xiao Qixi's tyrannical abuse, he could only reluctantly respond in a very soft voice. It sounded like a coward, and then he walked forward. The other brothers were not stupid either. Before Xiao Qixi came over to yell at them, they got up and followed their younger brother to work. Purple Lightning did not want to follow Do. He walked lazily in another direction, making sounds as he walked. Xiao Qixi could actually tell that he was communicating with his brothers. The general idea was to ask, "Who is going to follow me?" In the end, the steady Chingfeng followed third brother's footsteps. Big Yuanzi hesitated between the 2 directions, looking like he had a choice disorder. Qing Shuang followed Do directly. Before she left, she even used her tail to tease Big Brother. In Xiao Qixi's eyes, it was, "Come, let's have fun together." Big Yuanzi, who was easily led away, followed fourth brother just like that. This formation was very different from what Xiao Qixi had imagined. He completely did not expect Big Yuanzi to be a fence-sitter. If the 2 prides were next to each other, would he run around? Thinking about it, it was not impossible. When the lions were weak, they did not dare to scatter their urine around their territory. That period of time had become a thing of the past. Now, they could scatter their urine wherever they liked, even if it was the territory of other lions. He didn't need to mark them with urine every time he patrolled. The smell of lion's urine was very strong, and it could last for quite a long time. When the time came, he could just reinforce it again. When they were patrolling, they liked to sniff the places they had previously marked to determine if they should reinforce them. The handsome white lion walked to the place in his memory and lowered his head to sniff the haystack where Xiao Qixi had peed. This was a familiar smell that would make him happy. He had no intention of covering up Xiao Qixi urine, but he also urinated beside her. There was a river crossing the territory of the 6 lions, and there would be more or less water during the dry season. That was why this place was so popular. Even their old rival, the Golden Knights Alliance, was restless. Even if it was not for revenge, it was to invade territory. It was indeed quite troublesome for 3 famous strong lions to come looking for trouble. Xiao Qixi, who was still sleeping, heard the commotion and yawned loudly. He stretched lazily and woke all the lions up. "Wake up! An invader is here to provoke us." The white lion woke up first because his tail had been resting on Xiao Qixi leg. When the other party moved, he also woke up. At this moment, he was blinking his lazy blue eyes to dispel the sleepiness. It seemed that he had also heard the commotion. Usually, the atmosphere of the pride was lazy other than hunting and fighting. As for now, they had not started fighting yet, so they were also lazy. It was only when Xiao Qixi moved and used his actions to confirm that he was going to fight that the atmosphere of the pride became completely different. It was as if it had been ignited all of a sudden. The strong were against the strong. Today's casualties were inevitable. Xiao Qixi did not want to fight. As endangered animals, lions were one less lion. He usually tried his best to stop the 5 brothers from killing cubs and lionesses. They had never touched either of them. However, lions were on the grassland and could not help themselves. Lions could not be avoided. In the 6 against 3 battle, Xiao Qixi resolutely joined in order to protect the safety of the brats. Adhering to the principle of complementing each other, he, who was recognized as the strongest in the pride, led Blue Frost team to deal with the boss of the 3 brothers, a powerful lion with a scar on his face. What they did not know was that this lion who had killed countless lions was called Mr. Scar. Do brought along Big Yuanzi, who had a strong explosive power to fight against the original Evan. Purple Lightning brought along the 2nd brother, who had a low overall quality. The 2 of them were almost evenly matched, but they fought against Evan's older brother. This was definitely a soul-stirring life-and-death battle. Every time the lions waved their sharp claws and dropped their fangs, they really wanted to kill each other. The middle-aged lions had the advantage of being experienced and strong. This was the reason why they dared to provoke them. The young lions had the advantage of having explosive power. In a battle of 2 against 1, any factor could determine the outcome of the battle. For example, a small mistake. If the Norman brothers made a mistake, they still had the brothers and Xiao Qixi to save them. They could survive. Once the 3 brothers of the Golden Knights Alliance made a mistake, they would be greeted by the call of the death god. Evan, who had just recovered from his injuries, was the first to be defeated. He had already lost to this pride once, and he was still afraid. Next was his big brother, Mr. Scar. It was too strenuous for him to fight against Xiao Qixi, who was about to turn 5. His hind leg was ruthlessly slashed. Blood spilled on the grass, and the smell of blood spread instantly. The 6 lions had the chance to bite these 3 lions to death, lick their blood, and eat their meat. However, the pride led by Elishanda could not do such a thing. Under the fearful and soul-stirring gaze of the photographers, Xiao Qixi let the 3 injured lions go. If they returned to the pride and the lionesses were willing to take care of them, they would be lucky. After recuperating for a period of time, they could still continue to guard the pride. However, if other lions took the opportunity to invade the pride, these 3 brothers would definitely die. Unless the lionesses in the pride were strong enough. Lions did not have a good ending in their lives. Seeing that they would decline in another 2 or 3 years, Xiao Qixi could not help but feel touched. They were all lions. He hoped that he would spare the lives of the other lions. In his later years, the other lions would also spare the lives of his treasures. In the end, it was a thrilling victory. 2nd brother Qingfeng's leg was injured. There was a wound about 5 centimeters long. It was not long, but it was quite deep. Xiao Qishi immediately checked to see if his muscles and bones were injured. Seeing that second brother could still walk on this leg, there was a high chance that he was not injured. However, Xiao Qishi still felt sorry for him. This wound was obviously caused by the lion's fangs. The situation at that time should have been quite dangerous. Fortunately, third brother was strong enough and did not give the other side any more chances to hurt his brothers. It was a small problem. He believed that after being injured, he would be more agile in fights in the future. Animals always had a high tolerance for pain. For example, Changfeng did not look like he was injured at all. Furthermore, he was bleeding. When they returned to the place where they had landed, Xiao Qishi asked him to lie down and stop moving. He went out for a while, brought back some chewed-up leaves, and applied them to Changfeng's wound. Separated by a limited distance, the photographer did not know what he was doing. He only thought that he was licking the injured lion's wound. No, Xiao Qishi only brought back some hemostatic grass and mixed it with saliva. Soon, the bleeding wound stopped. The news of the Golden Knights' alliance's defeat might have intimidated the surrounding alliances. In short, they were not provoked again for a period of time. This bought second brother enough time to recuperate. After second brother was injured, the heavy responsibility of hunting fell to the other brothers. In order to prevent being ambushed when he was alone, he still followed his hunting brothers. During this period of time, the Pride took the initiative to leave delicious food for second brother. Even the most greedy big Yuanzi did not fight for it. It could be seen that they all hoped that second brother would recover quickly. To be honest, this wound was really nothing on the grassland. However, seeing the 5 lions take care of their injured second brother so well, who would not say that they were brothers? 3 months later, second brother Changfeng's injury had long recovered. During this period of time, he had been taken care of by his brothers and had become stronger. However, this was also very normal. The subadult lions were already growing, and their appearances changed almost every day. During this period of recuperation, Xiao Qishi doted on second brother very much. Not only did she usually pick out good meat for him, she also helped him clean his fur every day. On account of second brother's injury, the other brothers only watched helplessly and did not object. However, as second brother's wound healed and he still enjoyed Xiao Qishi's preferential treatment, the other brothers were not so happy. First of all, when it was time to eat, Big Yuanzi left with the liver in his mouth in a fit of pique and hid at the side to eat. It was not that he had to eat it. Perhaps he just felt unhappy. Big Yuanzi, who was lying in the distance, was fuming like a cutie that weighed a few hundred kilograms. He even let out a fierce sound from his throat. When Xiao Qishi licked second brother's fur, Dou stuck its leg in the middle. There were so many open spaces, but he did not lie down. Instead, he wanted to lie between Xiao Qishi and second brother. Seeing second brother and Dou fight as expected, the parents were not worried at all. Let them fight, let them fight. They could practice their skills after their injuries healed. The sound of the brothers fighting attracted the other brothers to prop up their upper bodies and watch them with relish. Some lions even wanted to take advantage of the chaos to join in. After all, there were many lions who wanted to beat second brother up recently. Perhaps second brother had not exercised his muscles for too long. In the end, he was pressed to the ground by Dou and lost the battle. The victor, Dou, returned to Xiao Qishi with clear intentions and lay on the ground to act coquettishly. Xiao Qishi could not be bothered with him. He had been troubled recently. Go, go, go. However, chasing him away did not work. Dou still leaned its big head on Xiao Qishi's abdomen and looked at this handsome and mighty lion with longing. What are you looking at? Xiao Qishi noticed Dou's gaze and felt that this child was not ordinary. Clearly, the other brothers had matured and did not like to stick to him. Well, they were all about the same, but Dou was especially prominent. This was not the result that Xiao Qishi wanted. Oh no, he was suddenly a little worried that he had raised this fellow astray. No, Xiao Qishi got up and went to the river to drink water and calm down. No other lions stepped into the water source in his territory, only some herbivores. However, it did not mean that herbivores were not a threat. For example, rhinoceroses and hippos, these two big fellows with explosive tempers. Even lions could not afford to provoke them. Doe also got up and followed Xiao Qixi. The sun shone so brightly that it narrowed its eyes. Its slender and muscular figure walked unhurriedly on the withered grass, looking very pleasing to the eye. Elegance seemed to be synonymous with big cats, but some people said that lions were big cats that did not look like big cats at all. They were more like canines. Indeed, some lions on the grassland lived more like canines. First of all, they did not care about hygiene, were sloppy, and even ate rotten meat. All of these deviated from the principles of big cats. However, Doe was definitely an authentic big cat. Other than being a little mischievous when he fought or was jealous, he was very nice the rest of the time. For example, on a hot day when the sun hung high in the sky, it accompanied Xiao Qixi to drink water. Ordinary lions would only go out after sunset. At this time, they were all taking a nap in the shade. No lion was willing to move in such weather. Seeing that Doe had also followed, Xiao Qixi's heart was even more chaotic. He squatted by the river bank and lowered his head to drink a few mouthfuls of water, hoping that the cool water could suppress the frustration in his heart. The handsome white lion squatted at the side, its blue eyes staring at Xiao Qixi's mouth full of water droplets and his chin that was swallowing. This gaze was abnormally hot. Xiao Qixi only wanted to say, "Don't love me, there will be no results." Even if he did not reject a male lion of the same sex, he already had Ao Daisai in his heart, and this could not be shaken. Perhaps he would never be able to find Ao Daisai in this lifetime, or perhaps Doe's character and appearance were really outstanding. However, Xiao Qixi was very sorry. His love for Doe could only be between relatives. After staring at Xiao Qixi for a long time, Doe did not do anything in the end. He only lowered his head to drink a few mouthfuls of water, as if he also needed the cool water to moisten his dry throat. This bank with the shade of the trees was still quite cool. The two lions simply lay on the ground and panted, enjoying a moment of peace. Of course, the two lions' hearts were not calm. Xiao Qixi was thinking, "Am I a pig?" In the past, Doe's behavior was already very obvious. It would stick to him at every turn and block him from contact with the other lions. This was simply a behavior that boys would only do when they were puberty. However, he foolishly thought that Doe was simply asking for attention. Pig, 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 pig. As for what Doe was thinking, perhaps no one could know. Or perhaps it was not thinking at all. Its world was very simple, and it was just doing what it wanted to do. Perhaps Doe did like Xiao Qixi, but since it was not an adult yet, this liking stopped at the level of a follower and occasionally jealous. The temperament of an adult lion would be more extreme. All of their emotions would be magnified countless times. Love, hate, or attachment to something, they would not rest until they were dead. For example, the three brothers of Sir Kim who had been beaten away would definitely come again if they recovered from their injuries and still had the strength to challenge. However, Xiao Qixi did not know about this. He even thought of taking it slow. There was still more than a year before the brats came of age, so there was no hurry. When the time came, they would go find a lioness to give birth to cubs on their own, and he would have peace. However, something happened a few days later which made him feel that this group life could not go on anymore. It was better to split up quickly. It was like this. On a comfortable morning when everyone was sleeping, the only adult lion present, Yolashanda, had an indescribable thought. Hence, he considered hiding behind a tree secretly to solve it. However, the moment he moved, 5 pairs of eyes looked at him in unison, as if they were saying, "Where are you going to play? Don't you want to bring us along?" Xiao Qixi, F***CK. After failing to do something bad secretly, he held it in for half a day. Finally, the brats are going out to hunt. He expressed that he did not want to go. Drag him back when you hunt. After confirming that Xiao Qixi was not going, the lions did not force him. Doe looked at Xiao Qixi a few times reluctantly, as if it wanted to stay and accompany him. However, his desire to hunt for the other party was still stronger, so he still went in the end. The bitter parent, Qiao Qishi, racked his brains to find an opportunity to relieve himself anxiously. Then, he smelled the scent and followed the lion brothers to hunt. After he arrived, the 5 brothers were still quietly hibernating. This also indirectly showed that lions were very fast. Qiao Qishi looked at the sky. To be honest, he felt that it was definitely a good thing to be faster. It was a great thing. After all, if he was lucky enough to find Ao Daisai, the other party would definitely suppress him. Therefore, it was good to be faster. Qiao Qishi was absent-minded and habitually lay beside Do. Do, who was originally focused on staring at its prey, was instantly shattered by Qiao Qishi's arrival. He turned his head to the side, his nostrils twitching slightly as he sniffed the faint scent in the air. Finally, he stared at Qiao Qishi's mouth. When Qiao Qishi reacted, Do had already licked his mouth, but it was not the kind with desire. The other party seemed to be purely helping him clean up. The residual scent. The author has something to say. Ciao ciao. I don't do fake orthopedics. Later on, it smelled so good. When lions and lionesses or gay friends were doing things, most of them would not deliberately find a secret place to hide before doing it. Sometimes they would even climb onto the other party's crotch in front of the pride of lions. As a result, it was normal to be watched and watched. Do finally moved. Although he was underage and would not be in heat, he seemed to like this smell, so he could not help but raise his paw and lick it. Other than that, he did not do anything. This was also the reason why Qiao Qishi was not sure if this tender grass really liked him. One had to know that lions were actually quite curious about their companions. Perhaps Do was just purely curious. Puberty was normal. After being relieved, the lion could not be bothered to analyze a child who did not know anything. He might as well sleep more if he had the free time. He got up and walked to the shade on the other side to lie down and sleep. The young lion that he called a child squatted on the spot for a long time until the pleasant smell became fainter and fainter. When they were sleeping at night, the photographers realized that Yolashanda was throwing a tantrum at the white lion. To be precise, he was not throwing a tantrum, but for the first time, he did not let the white lion lean on him to sleep. Was it because the weather was too hot? Did the white lion provoke Yolashanda? They felt that it was not the case. The weather had never affected the two lions sleeping soundly together. As for the white lion provoking Yolashanda, it did not make sense. Yolashanda's temper was obvious to all. He doted on the cubs that he raised. But now, he did not allow the white lion to get too close to him. Seeing the white lion being chased away twice and his confused expression, the photographers felt their hearts ache. Yolashanda had really sinned. The white lion, who had always been the most doted on, might not be able to bear this grievance. The video of the most doted lion being chased away by Yolashanda was uploaded. The effect was remarkable. Many people guessed that Yolashanda was in heat and was frustrated. After all, the pride was filled with a bunch of half-grown boys, and there was not a single lioness. The men expressed that they understood Yolashanda's irritation. It was not Yolashanda's fault. HHHHH is obviously in heat and irritable. White lion should be more sensible. Don't provoke him at this time. How pitiful. I agree that you should quickly invade the pride. How about the Melissa lions nearby? They have not given birth to cubs yet. They can mate directly if they go there. The person above sounds like a pimp. The Melissa lions was the name of a pride of lionesses. They had just chased the subadult male lion out to live independently. Indeed, they had not given birth to cubs yet. The male lion who had been the guardian of the pride had also left for some reason. Therefore, there were no male lions now.